Jian Yi's day begins with a brutal dressing down from her boss over a series of careless clerical errors that shouldn't be made by a graduate. As she wanders the neon-lit streets later that night, she reflects on the tragic accident 3 years ago that wiped her memory and left her struggling to survive alone. Her exhaustion turns to pure shock when she arrives home to find a wounded man collapsed right on her doorstep, his clothes soaked in blood. She tentatively checks for a pulse, noting that despite his condition, the stranger possesses a strikingly handsome and strangely familiar face. Panic sets in as she frantically calls out for help, desperate to save the unconscious man before it's too late. The situation takes a lethal turn when the man suddenly springs to life, pinning her against the wall with a cold gun barrel pressed against her head. Terrified and outmatched, Jian Yi has no choice but to comply with his demand and lead him into her apartment. She struggles to support the man's heavy weight as they cross the threshold, her mind racing as she realizes how much danger she is truly in. When she suggests heading to a hospital, the stranger coldly reveals the blood belongs to someone else and begins to remove his ruined clothing to inspect for injuries. He demands to know where the bathroom is, leaving Jian Yi to shield her eyes while he delivers a chilling ultimatum to stay quiet if she wants to stay safe. Huddled on the floor in the next room, she trembles with fear, questioning if she has just invited a cold-blooded killer into her sanctuary. The tension spikes when her phone suddenly rings, revealing a call from an acquaintance who is checking in on her during his shift. On the other end of the line, an officer standing at a grisly crime scene notices the tremor in her voice and asks if she's feeling sick. With the gun once again aimed at her head from behind the couch, Jian Yi is forced to lie, claiming she's simply exhausted from work. She desperately tries to discourage him from visiting by using her messy apartment as an excuse, while the officer continues his grim investigation on the streets. Despite her dismissive tone, the officer remains suspicious, staring at his phone as he senses that something is deeply wrong with his friend. Forensic investigators at the crime scene determine the victim was eliminated with a single, precise shot, identifying him as a lethal operative from the global criminal syndicate known as DOS. Officer Xiao coordinates a covert cleanup of the site to prevent public alarm, though he remains deeply concerned that Jian Yi might be caught in the crossfire of this escalating investigation. Inside the apartment, Jian Yi stands her ground against the wounded gunman, refusing to provide any personal information while the stranger observes her, with an unsettling intensity. The intruder moves in closer to conduct a rigorous physical evaluation of his hostage, stating that her unique appearance perfectly aligns with the specific technical requirements of his mission. Exhausted from a week of overtime, the stranger looks down at the sleeping girl, deciding to cover her up before he leaves. He leans in close, wondering if she's truly his target while silently warning her of the consequences if she's the wrong person. Haunted by a fading memory, a young girl begs someone not to leave as a voice reveals her name. Stella, the star in the sky. Jian Yi snaps awake alone, relieved to find her mysterious captor has finally vanished from the apartment. Standing with her bags after a sudden eviction, Jian Yi freezes as the stranger reappears with an unexpected offer of shelter. Before she can react, the man ruthlessly snatches her phone and drops it into a nearby trash bin to cut off her outside contact. Enraged by his arrogance, Jian Yi confronts him over the discarded device, only to be silenced by his cold, intimidating grip. Jian Yi attempts to sever ties, telling the staff she's moving on and will no longer be involved with the mysterious stranger. Chaos erupts as a live explosive is discovered, forcing the stranger to act fast by prying open a manhole so the bomb can be safely discarded. In the aftermath of the blast, Jian Yi realizes her once quiet life has been completely upended by the arrival of this dangerous man. As the dust settles, she finds herself shielded in his arms, left wondering why he would risk his life to protect her so selflessly. The stranger stands tall and dismisses his subordinate's concerns, proving that a little explosion isn't enough to shake his resolve. He tightens his grip on her hand, making it clear that she is now deep in this mess and has no choice but to follow his lead. Jian Yi is whisked away in a high-end luxury vehicle, her mind racing as she tries to reconcile his immense wealth with his aggressive behavior. They arrive at a sprawling, opulent estate where the stranger leads her through the massive entrance, marking the start of her forced residency. An elderly butler interrupts the master to ask for instructions regarding Jian Yi's personal belongings. While navigating the massive estate, Jian Yi discovers a portrait of a woman who looks exactly like her. During a formal dinner, she asks Uncle Li to reveal the identity of the girl in the painting. Uncle Li explains the woman is Stella, a lost love the master desperately sought for 3 years. The butler clarifies that although many look like Stella, Jian Yi is the only one the master has ever officially claimed. Jian Yi realizes her current safety relies entirely on her uncanny resemblance to the missing woman. Jian Yi downs her drink, bitterness flooding her mind as she grapples with being nothing more than a replacement for a missing woman. Overcome by exhaustion and the absurdity of her situation, She collapses onto her bed to escape her racing thoughts. Across town, the stranger sits at a tense dinner table, facing a stern elder who blames him for chaos caused by his absence. Returning to the estate, the stranger learns from Uncle Lee that Jian Yi has retreated to her room after overindulging. Jian Yi's internal monologue goes into overdrive as she desperately tries to rationalize her behavior, frantically convincing herself that her vulnerability from the night before was nothing more than a drunken mistake. The breakfast atmosphere shifts from awkward to absurd when the butler proudly unveils the vitalizing ingredients of his secret soup, causing Jian Yi to spray her drink in total disbelief, while the stranger sits in stunned, mounting irritation. With a sharp flick of a napkin, the stranger sternly orders the butler to end his bizarre culinary experiments, his focus immediately snapping back to Jian Yi with a cold, piercing glare that leaves her feeling completely cornered. Jian Yi asserts her independence, demanding her right to work while acting as his fiancée. The stranger responds with a cold, piercing glare to silence her. Surprisingly, he yields and orders Uncle Lee to manage her professional commute. He departs with a chilling threat, warning her against contacting the police. Jian Yi arrives at the office in a massive, high-end luxury vehicle. Hostile whispers immediately erupt among her colleagues in the hallway. She steps out looking modest, confusing onlookers who expected someone more glamorous. Co-workers speculate wildly about her relationship with the old man driver. A tense meeting begins over a simple cup of coffee in the office. Jian eats her lunch in solitude, feeling the weight of the rumors. A stylish colleague named Hu Qiang breaks the silence and asks to join her. Hu Qiang offers a warm, supportive smile that catches Jian Yi off guard. Jian Yi finally vents the unbelievable drama of her recent life to her new acquaintance. Jian Yi weighs Hu Qiang's advice about the safety of having a protector after her loss. Lin Feng stares out at the skyline, contemplating the endless dangers inherent to his dark world. His subordinate reveals that the bomber's hacker has compromised them and demands a direct meeting. A taunting clown-masked figure appears on the monitor, questioning Lin Feng's interest in the girl. Lin Feng remains stoic, brewing coffee while dismissing the clown circus group as irrelevant nuisances. The hacker warns of lurking enemies, but Lin Feng stays focused on maintaining his professional composure. After a final threat directed at Lin Feng's fiancée, the screen abruptly cuts to black. Lin Feng stands alone in his office, processing the gravity of the clown's digital intrusion. The young hacker returns, asking if the intense conversation with their adversary has finally ended. At the office entrance, Uncle Lee arrives to escort Jian Yi home, clarifying his professional role. Jian Yi realizes the danger of her secret life while Hu Xiang gushes over the luxury car. Jian Yi listens intently as the conversation turns to the late hour, her expression clouded by the growing weight of her secret life. The atmosphere shifts instantly when Hu Xiang beams with excitement, announcing her sudden plan to stay over and catching Jian Yi completely off guard. Uncle Lee offers a polite smile and a convenient excuse about the dangers of night driving, though Jian Yi can't help but feel there's a hidden motive behind his easy compliance. Surrounded by high-end fashion in the massive closet, Hu Xiang examines the expensive fabrics, while Jian Yi explains that her humble appearance is merely a result of the clothes she was assigned. Hu Xiang admits she originally thought Jian Yi was being mistreated, a comment that sends a jolt of anxiety through Jian Yi, as she wonders what else her friend has pieced together. Gazing at the luxury around them, Hu Xiang assumes these gifts are a sign of deep affection from a devoted fiancé, leaving a conflicted Jian Yi unable to reveal the cold reality of her situation. With Lin Feng confirmed to be away for the night, Jian Yi finally gives in to the request, allowing Hu Xiang to celebrate her chance to experience a taste of the elite lifestyle. The peaceful night is shattered as a confrontation begins in the shadows, and Jian Yi screams in terror as she sees the intruder reaching into his jacket for what looks like a weapon. Jian Yi rushes forward with a desperate plea, begging for her friend's safety as she stands between the terrified girl and the cold master of the house. Lin Feng remains unmoved, his gaze sharp and calculating as he questions the lapse in security that permitted an uninvited guest into his private domain. Seeking a moment of quiet control, Lin Feng pulls Jian Yi into a firm, mandatory hold, insisting that her presence is required to soothe his darkening mood. Later that night, Lin Feng sits in the shadows with a drink in hand, his mind focused on the irritating pests from the clown circus who have dared to infiltrate his territory. Lin Feng cuts off Jian Yi's path, questioning her sudden desire to leave his side. Jian Yi rests on the bed, staring up as the tension between them heightens. Lin Feng stares down with fierce resolve, vowing never to let her disappear again. Uncle Lee interrupts the morning to announce that breakfast is officially served. Jian Yi and Lin Feng exit the bedroom, greeting the surprised butler as they head to the dining area. The group assembles for the meal while Uncle Lai admits his logistical mistake regarding Jian Yi's attire. Lin Feng finishes his breakfast and instructs everyone to resume their duties immediately. The luxury vehicle arrives at the destination, instantly drawing the gaze of curious onlookers. Hu Xiang comments on Jian Yi's seemingly perfect life, unaware of the underlying complexities. A newcomer suddenly intercepts Jian Yi, demanding to know if she recently moved house. Jian Yi urgently signals for silence, her mind racing with the need to keep her friend Hu Xiang far away from this dangerous web. She stands before her companion, sweating under the pressure of keeping her secret safe, while memories of the cold-eyed Lin Feng and Uncle Li haunt her thoughts. Desperate to deflect suspicion, she concocts a wild story about a gas pipe explosion forcing her to move, but her companion isn't buying a single word of it. Jian Xi beats a hasty retreat, claiming she's nearly late for her next appointment to avoid further interrogation. Alone at last, the young man pulls out his phone to deliver a grim update. The target has been located by Lin Feng. Back at the corporate office, the staff acknowledges the general manager's orders as they prepare for the day's professional tasks. The office air is thick with whispers as the staff questions how a supposedly humble employee like Jian Xi ended up in a high-end luxury vehicle. Inside the executive suite, the vice president abruptly assigns Jian Xi to assist him with an upcoming high-stakes client meeting despite her clear hesitation. The pair arrives at a dimly lit lounge, where Jian Xi immediately questions if such a setting is truly appropriate for a professional business negotiation. Maintaining a strictly professional focus on the hospitality requirements of the meeting, the vice president prepares the refreshments. The atmosphere grows tense as the vice president reveals they were former university classmates, a fact that leaves Jian Xi completely stunned and confused. As he offers a glass to toast their shared history, Jian Xi's head begins to throb, her amnesia making the memories of her university days feel like a complete void. Under the neon glow of the city, a predatory man tries to take advantage of a disoriented Jian Xi, suggesting a hotel stay when she claims she has no home. Just as he attempts to force her into his vehicle, a firm hand slams against the car door, halting his plans and drawing a roar of anger from the startled driver. A silver-haired stranger intervenes, coolly identifying himself as Jian Yi's friend and calling out the man's obvious malicious intent. The atmosphere shifts instantly as the stranger flashes a police badge, sending the coward into a panic as he quickly abandons Jian Xi and flees the scene. With the threat gone, the officer catches the collapsing Jian Xi, supporting her weight, as she drifts into unconsciousness against his chest. Speeding away, the man grumbles about his bad luck, only to realize with a jolt of terror that a mysterious car has been tailing him from the start. The pursuit intensifies as a luxury Rolls-Royce aggressively tailgates him, revealing Lin Feng watching from the shadows of the back seat. Lin Feng's subordinate reports the evening's events, explaining that they missed the chance to pick up Jian Xi after her shift. Hearing that a lowlife dared to harass her, Lin Feng's expression turns cold, and he orders his men to deliver a severe warning to the culprit. Cornered in a dark alley by armed enforcers, the man falls to his knees, desperately pleading for mercy for a mistake he deeply regrets. Lin Feng steps into the light, his presence suffocating as he demands to know exactly where Jian Xi was taken. Trembling, the man confesses that a police officer intervened and took her away before he could reach his destination. Upon hearing the name Xiaoning, Lin Feng realizes she's safe for the moment, but his frustration boils over as he prepares to handle the remaining business. Looming over his prey, Lin Feng begins to roll up his sleeves, ready to personally deliver a lesson the man will never forget. The morning sun rises over the city skyline, signaling the start of a tense new day. Inside a quiet bedroom, Jian Xi slowly stirs awake, her eyes wide with confusion as she takes in her unfamiliar surroundings. She instinctively clutches the blanket to her chest, trying to piece together the fragments of the previous night. Though her mind is a fog of uncertainty, she tries to remain composed while processing her situation. A sudden voice from behind the door breaks the silence, as Xiao Ning checks to see if his guest is finally conscious. He steps into the room dressed in a simple apron, having spent the morning preparing a meal for her recovery. Jian Xi accepts a sandwich, her hunger finally overriding her initial shock. The two sit together at the dining table, the atmosphere thick with the weight of her recent rescue. Xiao Ning watches her with a stern, parental gaze, clearly disapproving of the danger she put herself in. Panicked by his silence, Jian Xi frantically explains that her drinking was a one-time accident caused by a severe headache. He listens with a guarded expression, his posture professional, yet filled with genuine concern for her well-being. He reminds her that his only priority is her safety, urging her to rely on him rather than struggling alone. Concluding their breakfast, he stands up and prepares to escort her to her workplace. As he turns to leave, Jian Xi reaches out and catches his hand, her expression turning dead serious. Her eyes burn with a desperate need for answers, demanding to know what really happened during her 2 missing years. Meanwhile, the light of dawn hits the imposing facade of the Lin estate. The butler approaches the master's quarters, softly knocking to see if the young master has risen. Finding no resistance, he realizes the heavy doors have been left completely unlocked. He steps inside to find Lin Feng already awake, sitting motionless in the center of the room. The young master is perched in his chair, staring out the window at the fading horizon. He stares coldly ahead, frustrated that the rising sun has chased away the stars he was tracking. The butler watches him with quiet apprehension, sensing the dark storm brewing within his master. Suddenly, a smartphone on the table begins to vibrate violently, shattering the morning silence. Lin Feng reaches out to claim the device, his focus narrowing on the incoming alert. He answers the call with a chilling calm, listening as a voice mocks him about his fiancée's disappearance. His grip tightens as he realizes that the hacker known as Sparrow has breached his home security network. On the other end of the line, Sparrow casually lounges back, comparing Jian Yi's appearance to a woman he once knew in Paris. Lin Feng's eyes turn lethal as he demands to know how much his informant truly knows about his hidden past. Lin Feng sits tensely in his study, listening as he is informed that his father has suddenly sent people to retrieve Stellar. He remains deeply skeptical, questioning how his father could have possibly located the real Stellar so quickly after all this time. On the other end of the line, the hacker Sparrow mocks him, asking if the prospect of reuniting with his first love fails to excite him. Lin Feng grips his phone tightly as the voice taunts him, calling him a fickle-hearted person for moving on to a new love so easily. After ending the call, Lin Feng turns to Uncle Li to verify if his father truly made any mention of finding the girl. Uncle Li admits he wasn't informed, but notes that the master expects Lin Feng to move in with his current girlfriend immediately. The butler then hesitantly asks if they should launch a search for Lady Jian, who has been missing since the previous night. Lin Feng stares coldly ahead, flatly stating there is absolutely no need to look for her. He explains with a bitter edge that she has finally returned to the side of a man who can actually protect her. Walking away, he declares with finality that he and Jian Yi no longer have any sort of relationship. Unbeknownst to him, a silent observer watches from behind a cracked door, taking in every word of his cold dismissal. The scene shifts to a sun-drenched highway where a lone car speeds toward a mysterious destination. Inside, Xiaoning reveals a shocking truth, explaining that 2 years ago, Jian Yi desperately begged him to help her erase her own memories. Jian Yi listens in stunned silence as he describes how extreme emotional stress can allow a person to force parts of their brain into a deep sleep. He clarifies the procedure was a success, meaning her past isn't gone, but merely buried in a dormant state. The car continues its journey, carrying them closer to the secrets locked within her mind. They finally pull up to the front of a specialized psychological clinic tucked away in the city. Jian Yi gazes out the window at the building, realizing this is where her identity was professionally hidden from her. Xiao Ning looks at her with concern, warning her that whatever she chose to forget must have been a truly horrific experience. A wave of physical dread washes over Jian Yi, causing her to tremble as the weight of the unknown hits her. Noticing her distress, Xiao Ning reaches out to steady her, offering her one last chance to turn back before they proceed. Jian Yi closes her eyes for a moment, battling the internal fear that threatens to overwhelm her. She opens them with a flash of newfound resolve, determined to understand the true nature of her past relationships. Looking at her companion with genuine appreciation, she thanks him for being the brotherly figure she can rely on. Together, they step out of the car and stand before the entrance of the quiet clinic. Xiao Ning calls out for Dr. Su as they approach the front door, expecting a professional greeting. However, they find the door slightly ajar and damaged, an immediate sign that something is terribly wrong. Sensing an imminent threat, Xiao Ning instructs Jian Yi to stay outside while he goes in to secure the area. He cautiously disappears into the dark hallway, leaving Jian Yi alone in the shadows of the building. Jian Yi waits by the entrance, her anxiety spiking as she stares into the gloom where the doctor should be. She looks up at the clinic's sign, feeling a heavy sense of foreboding about the secrets hidden inside. Suddenly, an instinctual chill runs down her spine, alerting her that a major shift is about to occur. Her phone begins to buzz in her hand, displaying an incoming call from a completely unknown number. She answers it, only to be met with a confusing voice addressing her as Miss Su and asking for Dr. Su. The caller cryptically mentions an upcoming Lin family celebration before abruptly hanging up on the baffled girl. Jian Yi stares at the blank screen, the name of the Lin family echoing with a dangerous and familiar weight. Xiao Ning reels from the realization that the missing doctor has been forcibly taken. Investigating the perimeter, he spots a surveillance camera that has been recording the clinic's entrance for several days. He carefully removes the device, questioning why a psychological clinic would have such high-tech monitoring hidden away. Jian Yi looks on in confusion as the officer notes the camera's design bears the unmistakable signature of an entity known as Dias. Xiao Ning turns to her with a serious gaze, advising her to stay away from these dangerous details until her past is clear. Feeling like a burden once again, Jian Yi looks away and offers a soft apology for all the chaos her presence has caused. He insists that she shouldn't blame herself for the evil of others and that she deserves to live a normal life, while the police handle the shadows. With a comforting gesture, he promises to keep her safe and asks her to simply trust in his professional protection. While Xiao Ning calls in the disappearance to his team, Jian Yi's mind drifts to the high-stakes gala looming the next evening. She exits the scene with a heavy heart, her thoughts consumed by the upcoming Lin family celebration. Night falls over a massive, glowing estate as the elite gather for the Lin family's prestigious anniversary event. Inside the grand ballroom, a host raises a glass to 3 years of success while welcoming the city's most powerful figures. Amidst the sea of gowns and suits, Jian Yi wonders if the mysterious caller is watching her every move. She navigates the crowded floor with cautious steps, trying her best to blend into the background. Despite her plain clothes and mask, she feels exposed in a room full of people who shouldn't be able to recognize her. Across the room, a sharp-eyed man sips his wine and questions a young hare about his current romantic partner. Lin Feng stands before the man, formally presenting a woman in a stunning evening gown as his companion. Jian Yi's heart stops when she hears the name of the woman standing by his side. Bai Huixiang. The elegant newcomer maintains a perfect, poised facade while clinging to Lin Feng's arm. Stunned by the revelation, Jian Yi can hardly believe that Huixiang has managed to infiltrate the inner circle. Bai Huixiang plays her part perfectly, greeting the elder Lin with the grace of a future daughter-in-law. The patriarch brushes off his son's recent absence, declaring that a man's professional duties must always come first. As the woman mentions a special gift she's prepared, Lin Feng offers a cold, formal thanks to his father. A gloved hand reaches into a travel bag to retrieve a lipstick. Bai Huixiang applies her makeup, her face tight with simmering frustration. She slams the lipstick down, furious that the gala guests are ignoring her presence. The door creaks open as Jian Yi cautiously enters the vanity area. Recognition hits Jian Yi instantly as she calls out to her supposed friend. Huixiang whirls around in shock, eyes widening at Jian Yi's unexpected arrival. She quickly recovers, boasting that Lin Feng brought her as his official partner. Stunned by the news, Jian Yi instinctively recoils from the sharp words. Huixiang sneers, claiming she is better suited for Lin Feng's high-stakes world. She asserts her dominance, stating her feelings for him are second to none. Jian Yi stands frozen, processing the weight of the cruel confrontation. A sudden sharp pain flares in Jian Yi's mind as she clutches her head. Huixiang watches coldly while Jian Yi buckles under the intense mental strain. Despite the insults, Jian Yi grabs her arm to warn her of the danger. Huixiang violently shoves her away, refusing to hear another word. She declares that Jian Yi has been permanently replaced in Lin Feng's life. The infiltrator walks away, leaving Jian Yi isolated in the quiet hallway. Jian Yi lingers in silence, wondering if she truly abandoned the man she loved. Her headache worsens as she questions the motives of the person who sent her. She struggles to understand why her heart feels so heavy and broken. Shadowy figures move in the distance while Jian Yi remains distracted and vulnerable. A woman in a blue gown suddenly emerges to approach Jian Yi directly. Jian Yi is paralyzed with shock when she sees the stranger's identical face. The look-alike offers a mysterious smile at the impossible coincidence. Before Jian Yi can move, the double lunges forward with a knockout claw. The mysterious twin whispers a chilling plea while subduing her target. Jian Yi's eyes widen in sheer terror as her vision starts to fade. The look-alike hovers over the unconscious Jian Yi, finalizing her scheme. Jian Yi lies helpless on the floor, stunned by their identical features. The doppelganger realizes her victim is a perfect visual match. The empty hallway falls into a heavy, ominous silence. The imposter casts a final, calculating glance backward before leaving. She strides away, leaving the body behind in the shadows. Thugs locate Jian Yi, confused by her sudden change in attire. They carry the girl away while the imposter watches secretly. The doppelganger retreats further into the dark mansion corridors. Masked clowns suddenly block the imposter's path, halting her escape. The girl struggles as the mysterious men seize her arms. A clown lifts her chin, demanding data on the forbidden stardust. He threatens her life with a chilling, painted grin. The villain reveals he has already injected her with a deadly virus. The toxin takes hold, causing her vision to blur and fade. He warns that the secret technology must not be lost. A getaway car tears through the midnight city streets. Inside, the kidnappers discuss the high risks of their operation. The lead clown adjusts his mask with cold, steady precision. He removes the disguise, revealing a face hardened by the mission. The vehicle speeds away under the glow of a full moon. Lin Feng prepares to dismiss his guest at the gala entrance. Bai Huixiang grabs his sleeve, desperate for more of his time. She asserts that her professional value far exceeds her rivals. Her eyes plead for him to recognize her superior capabilities. Lin Feng firmly pulls away to reestablish his personal distance. He coldly instructs his driver to take her home immediately. She sits in the car, stunned by his total lack of interest. Lin Feng declares that Jian Yi is an incomparable presence in his life. The car departs, leaving a rejected Bai Huixiang in the dark. Lin Feng watches the retreating lights, reflecting on his difficult path. Young Master Li contemplates his unlucky situation. He arrives at room 2101 to find his father's mystery gift. Li wonders what could have been brought back from Paris. Entering the room, he spots a figure lying on the bed. He remains skeptical of the reliability of this present. The woman lies unconscious, looking exactly like his target. He reaches out, drawn to the uncanny resemblance. Li questions if surgery could truly mimic someone this perfectly. He touches her face, inspecting the skin for any flaws. A sudden thought makes him recoil in suspicion. His phone vibrates, breaking his concentration. He answers the call while keeping watch over her. The woman's eyes begin to flutter as she stirs. She wakes up in the strange room, completely disoriented. Realizing a man is watching her, she freezes in place. She decides to sneak away while he is distracted by the phone. Keeping low, she crawls across the floor toward the exit. Her hand reaches desperately for the door handle. Li's foot slams down on her dress, ending her escape. She looks up, startled by his cold, imposing gaze. Lai remains focused on the call, ignoring her panicked expression. She assumes she's been mistaken for a woman who ran away. She mocks what she thinks is his hobby for collecting lookalikes. His eyes sharpen as he realizes this is the real one. A faint smirk appears as he acknowledges the caller. Li looks down at his new asset, thanking his father for the gift. The night deepens over the towering skyscraper where Jian Xi is being held captive. She stands her ground, demanding that Lai release her now that he knows she isn't the person he was originally looking for. She keeps pressing her case, insisting that he shouldn't have any professional interest in someone like her. Her breath hitches as she catches a sudden, intense shift in Lai's expression. Before she can react, the world blurs as she is abruptly swept off her feet. Meanwhile, under the cold glow of streetlights, the doppelganger wanders the city streets in a daze. She is haunted by the memory of the masked captor who claimed to have infected her with a lethal virus. Her heels click against the pavement as she approaches a waiting vehicle, desperate for any chance at survival. Lin Feng intercepts her immediately, gripping her shoulders as he demands to know if she went looking for him on her own. Overwhelmed by fear, she buries her face in his chest and begs to be taken back to her family home. The first rays of dawn break over the horizon, signaling the start of a chaotic new day. A car tears through the morning traffic, racing toward a destination only the passenger knows. As soon as the vehicle comes to a halt, the girl scrambles out and begins to run with frantic urgency. Lin Feng is left standing by the open car door, calling out her name in complete confusion. He watches her retreat, wondering if a sudden flash of memory is what triggered this desperate flight. The scene opens at the Su family's old residence, where the quiet exterior hides a frantic search unfolding within. Inside the dimly lit room, the doppelganger is desperately tearing through the shelves, her movements hurried and manic as she searches for something hidden. Lu steps in to intervene, his voice filled with genuine concern as he begs to know what she's looking for so he can assist her. Her hands don't stop for a second, frantically pulling at the bindings of the books while she completely ignores his pleas. Frustrated by his interference, she snaps at him to stay out of her way, her eyes flashing with cold irritation. In the shadows of the library, a hand reaches out, desperate to close the distance and offer comfort. Lu pulls her into a tight embrace from behind, swearing that he will never let her fall into harm's way again. Despite the protective gesture, the doppelganger's expression hardens as she realizes her time is running out and her future is uncertain. Suddenly, a hidden mechanism clicks within the shelving unit, revealing a secret compartment tucked away among the books. A silver disc slips from its hiding place, tumbling toward the floor with a sharp metallic ring. The object of her obsession, the Stardust backup disc, finally comes into full view as it settles on the table. Her face lights up with a chilling sense of triumph as she realizes the prize is finally within her reach. She immediately breaks free from Lu's grasp, her focus shifting entirely to the high-tech data storage in front of her. Her fingers brush against the surface of the disc, claiming the vital information she's risked everything to find. Lu manages to take the disc first, insisting that he must keep it in his custody to protect her from its dangerous connections. The atmosphere turns deadly as she pulls a weapon on him, forcing Lu to finally realize he's been protecting imposter this entire time. She grips the handle of her pistol tight, preparing to end the confrontation with a decisive strike. With brutal efficiency, she slams the butt of the gun against his head, sending him spiraling into unconsciousness. Lu collapses onto the cold floor, completely incapacitated by the sudden and violent assault. Without a hint of remorse, she steps over his fallen body and makes her move toward the exit. She bursts out of the front door, leaving the wreckage of the Su household behind her as she flees the scene. Tires screech against the pavement as she speeds away, disappearing into the city streets with Lu's stolen car. Sometime later, Lu groggily opens his eyes, feeling the throbbing pain from the blow to his head as he regains consciousness. He quickly pulls out his phone to alert the intelligence department, demanding they lock down his vehicle and report the attack immediately. Despite his injury, he remains professionally focused, ordering his team to keep a close watch on the situation as he prepares his next move. The morning light filters through the window, casting soft shadows against the bedroom wall. Jian Xi lies restless under the covers, her face twisted in discomfort as she battles a sudden, sharp migraine. She winces and clutches her head, the throbbing pain pulling her back from the edge of sleep. Her consciousness drifts into a dream, recalling the image of a plane soaring through the sky as she calls out for her parents. The memory shifts to Countrywise Airport, where a younger Jian Xi stands full of energy and excitement. Sunlight pours into the massive terminal as the family prepares to navigate the busy travel hub. Her father pauses to lift his camera, eager to capture a commemorative family portrait before they depart. Jian Xi chides him, reminding him that this trip is strictly for his professional research and not for sightseeing. Her father's expression softens, reflecting the weight of his responsibilities at the research institution. Sensing the mood, her mother steps in to comfort her while the father looks on, slightly dejected. Jian Xi huffs in annoyance, frustrated by her father's surprisingly childish behavior during such a serious trip. She finally gives in, waving her hands and agreeing to take more group photos once they arrive at the hotel. Suddenly, the sharp ring of a mobile phone cuts through their conversation. Both parents look stunned as they receive an urgent directive from the research center demanding their immediate presence. Without wasting a moment, they wave a hasty goodbye and rush off to handle their professional duties. Jian Xi is left standing completely alone, dwarfed by a massive pile of heavy suitcases. She stares into the distance with a blank expression, wondering how her parents could just leave her like this. All around her, foreign travelers speak in a rapid, confusing language that makes her feel even more isolated. She closes her eyes in frustration, realizing she has no way to communicate with anyone around her. She tries to push forward, her boots straining as she attempts to move the heavy luggage on her own. Hunched over and exhausted, she silently wishes for a helpful person who can actually speak her language to appear. Moving through the crowd, a mysterious man in a dark coat navigates the airport with a quiet intensity. He halts his pace, his eyes locking onto the young woman struggling with her bags by the roadside. In the distance, several men in suits patrol the area, looking for someone in the bustling crowd. The hooded man pulls his coat tighter, carefully avoiding the gaze of the passing security detail. He approaches Jian Xi from behind, his presence catching her completely off guard. He offers a subtle, charming smile, maintaining a polite and helpful demeanor. Jian Xi looks up, her eyes wide with surprise at the sudden appearance of the stranger. He leans in close to offer his assistance, and she is shocked to hear him speak in a language she finally understands. Her face instantly brightens with a look of pure relief, thrilled that a kind stranger has arrived to help her. To evade the approaching suits, the mysterious man pulls Jian Xi into a protective embrace, masking their faces from view. The men in gray suits scan the terminal, hunting for their target with cold, calculated precision. From beneath his hood, the stranger's sharp gaze remains fixed on the perimeter, waiting for the threat to pass. He maintains a firm grip to ensure they look like nothing more than a common couple in the crowded airport. The lead investigator looks directly toward them, but fails to see through the clever ruse. Convinced the target isn't there, the men turn their attention elsewhere and continue their search. Up close, Jian Xi is momentarily stunned by the stranger's striking features as he keeps a watchful eye on the area. A faint, triumphant smirk plays on his lips once he realizes the pursuers have been successfully deceived. As soon as the coast is clear, he breaks the proximity, returning to his cold and distant demeanor. He mocks her reaction with a teasing remark, leaving a flustered Jian Xi to stammer out a defense. The flashback shifts to a high-rise hotel in Countrywide, where the next phase of the mystery unfolds. Despite his cold exterior, the man takes the lead in unloading Jian Yi's heavy luggage from the taxi. Determined to handle things herself, she quickly snatches the handle of her suitcase back from him. He questions if she can even move the massive pile of bags on her own, clearly skeptical of her strength. Jian Xi insists on walking away alone, wanting to maintain a strictly professional distance from the stranger. He stands silently by the car, watching her depart without another word. With a final glance back at the silhouette of her savior, Jian Xi pushes through the glass doors of the hotel. Safe in her room, she stares out at the city skyline while checking in with her mother. She collapses onto the bed, listening as her mother jokingly prioritizes the stranger's looks over the potential danger. Jian Xi grows frustrated, reminding her mom that they need to stay vigilant while in an unfamiliar country. Back at the research facility, her mother frantically searches through files while her father stays buried in work. The atmosphere turns dire as her father discovers that the top secret, forbidden Stardust data is missing. Terror grips her mother at the thought of facing the powerful President Ma without the promised results. Fearing the worst, her parents hold each other, realizing they are in over their heads. Overhearing the panic through the phone, Jian Xi demands to know why they are acting so strangely. Her father dodges the question, instead giving her a haunting directive to go to the police if an accident occurs. The line goes dead, leaving Jian Xi paralyzed by the realization that this might be the last time she hears their voices. She can't help but wonder about the true motives of President Lin, the mysterious benefactor behind her parents' research. Jian Xi collapses onto her bed, overwhelmed by the crushing weight of being alone once again. In the quiet of her childhood, she clutched a phone and a family photo, waiting for parents who were always too busy with research to come home. A single photograph captured a rare moment of warmth, depicting a happy family that had long since been fractured by their work. Left to her own devices, she learned to navigate the world from a young age, even if it meant climbing onto stools just to reach the kitchen counter. Her independence grew into a fierce self-reliance as she mastered life's daily challenges all on her own. Years of dedication transformed her into a model student, earning the admiration of her peers and teachers alike. She eventually stood before the prestigious gates of University Y, a testament to her relentless drive for success. Her only motivation for working so hard was the hope of finally securing a future where she could spend more time with her family. But the memory of her parents' frantic, final phone call pulls her back to a terrifying reality. Desperate to understand their warning, she tears through her luggage to find the hidden item they mentioned. Her hands tremble as she pulls a heavy brown envelope from the depths of her suitcase. Suddenly, a sleek black drive slips out and crashes onto the floor with a sharp clap. Panicked, she lunges for the device, praying that the critical data hasn't been destroyed by the fall. She immediately slots the drive into her computer to verify its contents. The room is silent as she waits for the system to process the forbidden files. Her eyes widen in shock as the screen illuminates the groundbreaking secrets of the forbidden stardust. Relieved that the data is intact, she carefully ejects the drive from the tower. She slides the hardware back into its protective envelope, knowing how dangerous this information truly is. Wiping the sweat from her forehead, Jian Xi realizes that this single object is likely why her parents are in grave danger. She turns to the web, searching for the location of the Lin Company to find the answers she needs. Staring out the window, she prepares herself to confront the powerful organization head-on. Steeling her resolve, she gets ready to head out into the city to deliver the documents. Meanwhile, at a nearby cafe, a girl is stunned to see the mysterious man, wondering how he escaped airport security so easily. He remains completely unfazed, dismissing the guards as nothing more than second-rate obstacles. She hands over an envelope containing his ticket to freedom, a brand new ID and passport. His contact can't believe he's walking away from the Lin family's billion-dollar empire and the chance to lead Diaz. For him, a life of corporate royalty in Country Y is a cage he has no intention of entering. He offers a faint smirk, deciding his father can shoulder the burden of leadership for another decade. Terrified of the fallout, the girl warns him that his father will be furious if he discovers her involvement. She clings to him in a desperate plea, begging to be taken along before she has to face the consequences alone. With a swift movement, he effortlessly shakes her off and prepares to make his clean getaway. As he steps out into the crowd, he inadvertently crosses paths with Jian Xi, unaware that their fates are about to collide. Jian Xi and the mysterious stranger collide with a sudden, jarring impact that sends their belongings flying. The crucial manila envelope slips from her grasp, fluttering down toward the pavement. The young man quickly reaches out to steady her, his apology cut short by a look of total shock. Jian Xi winces from the jolt, her eyes flashing with irritation as she tries to regain her balance. Recognition instantly registers in the man's eyes as he realizes exactly who he just ran into. He stands his ground with a calm smirk, noting that the universe seems determined to bring them back together. Jian Yi's jaw drops as she shouts in disbelief, unable to comprehend why this specific man keeps crossing her path. Without skipping a beat, the heir leans down to help gather the scattered documents from the ground. His fingers brush against the rough paper of the envelope as he retrieves it for her. He hands the files back with a playful smile, wondering aloud if this recurring meeting is a sign of fate. Jian Yi snatches her things back, grumbling that running into him feels much more like a curse than destiny. He looks at her with an amused glint, questioning if his presence really causes her that much grief. She turns away, her face heating up as she vividly remembers the chaos of their very first encounter. Watching the scene from a nearby table, the red-haired contact sighs in disbelief at the young master's casual attitude. The red-haired man stands up and shouts a warning, reminding the hare that he's supposed to be fleeing, not flirting. With a mischievous wave, he thanks the hare for the free drink and makes a hasty retreat into the crowd. The hare's expression shifts into a sharp, focused gaze as he tells Jian Yi he'd prefer to talk over a drink if they weren't both so busy. Jian Yi looks at him with pure skepticism, making it clear she has no interest in social calls right now. She scans the bustling surroundings, feeling the weight of being a stranger in a city full of foreigners. Stealing her resolve, she asks him point-blank for the directions to the high-stakes Lin's headquarters. He stares at her in stunned silence, wondering if she has any idea what kind of lion's den she's trying to enter. In the background, the red-haired runner is seen nearly tripping as he continues his frantic escape. The hare reaches for his pocket, pulling out a sleek piece of tech to stay connected to his network. He slides the wireless earbud into place, preparing to receive a critical update on his status. His expression darkens as the voice on the other end warns him that his betrayal was expected and the airport is now a trap. Jian Yi barks at him to pay attention, frustrated that he's zoned out right in the middle of her urgent request. Back at the transport hub, the president's security detail receives strict orders to keep every exit under heavy surveillance for the young master. Realizing his original exit plan is dead, the hare asks Jian Yi how much of a hurry she's actually in. He suddenly reaches out and grabs her hand, his grip firm and strictly professional, as he takes charge of the situation. Before she can even protest, he breaks into a full sprint, dragging Jian Yi along as they disappear into the city streets. The duo navigates through a bustling commercial plaza, where the morning sun glints off the storefronts. Jian Yi clutches her shopping bags, growing increasingly impatient with her mysterious companion's vague directions and strange choices. A refreshing can of soda drops into a vending machine's collection bin with a sharp thud. The man reaches down to retrieve the cold drink, maintaining his cool composure despite the heat of their escape. He hands the beverage over to Jian Yi, assuring her that their destination is finally within reach. The pair navigates through a lively area where performers are entertaining the passing crowds of tourists. Suddenly, a surge in the thick crowd sends the pedestrians stumbling into one another. Acting quickly to prevent her from being knocked over, the man pulls Jian Yi into a protective hold. Jian Yi is left momentarily stunned by the sudden proximity in the middle of the busy walkway. He maintains a firm but steady grip on her arm to ensure she doesn't get swept away by the throng of people. Navigating the chaotic environment together, He guides her carefully as they maneuver through the remaining crowd. Looking up at him, Jian Xi finds herself questioning the true nature of the man she is forced to trust. She shuts her eyes tightly, trying to process the overwhelming intensity of their current situation. Reaching into one of their bags, the man pulls out a wide-brimmed sun hat to help her blend in. He carefully adjusts the brim over her head, completing her quick and effective disguise. They finally reach a railing overlooking the water, with Jian Xi looking out in utter confusion at their surroundings. Instead of the corporate headquarters she expected, they have arrived at a sun-drenched beach teeming with seagulls. Settling onto the sand, the man takes the opportunity to focus on his sketchbook while Jian Xi rests nearby. A rare, genuine smile crosses his face as he concentrates on the drawing in front of him. Jian Xi points an accusatory finger, demanding to know exactly what he is working on so secretively. With lightning-fast reflexes, he snaps the notebook shut to keep his work hidden from her prying eyes. He offers a playful, dismissive grin, insisting that he wasn't doing anything of importance. Jian Xi grows serious, questioning if his obsession with the Lin Company stems from a hidden, ulterior motive. As their feet sink into the warm sand, he begins a philosophical explanation on the duality of light and shadow. She listens with wide-eyed curiosity as he explains how people's perspectives are shaped by the boundaries they draw for themselves. His gaze turns distant and contemplative as he discusses the difficult choices forced upon those living in the nighttime. He looks back at her with a soft expression, wondering if she finally understands his complex theory of existence. The mysterious man reaches out, his fingers brushing the sand as he admits he finally wants to know the girl's real name. Jian Xi sits frozen on the shore, completely caught off guard by his sudden change in tone. Maintaining his composure, the man reveals his identity as Lin Feng, challenging her to share her own name in return. He leans in with intense focus, claiming his instincts tell him her name must be as charming as her personality. Suddenly, a sharp vibration cuts through the moment, signaling an incoming call from inside Jian Yi's pocket. She quickly pulls out her phone, with Lin Feng watching her every move from just inches away. Jian Yi answers with a bright smile, expecting a casual chat with her mother. Her face instantly pales as her mother's voice on the other end delivers news that turns her world upside down. Panic sets in as she listens to her mother's final, desperate instructions to take care of herself. The line goes dead with a haunting series of beeps, leaving Jian Yi staring into the void in total shock. Seeing her distress, Lin Feng reaches out to steady her, his professional concern growing as he asks if she's all right. Jian Yi remains paralyzed, her eyes wide as the weight of the tragedy begins to sink in. In a sudden burst of desperation, she grabs his wrist, demanding to know the location of the Lin Company. She shakes with grief, begging him to tell her how to reach the research headquarters immediately. Lin Feng falls silent, his gaze dropping as he realizes the gravity of the situation unfolding before them. A taxi tears through the streets, carrying Jian Yi toward the heart of the storm. She sits in the back seat clutching a folder of documents, praying that her parents are safe despite the terrifying call. The massive Lin Company skyscraper looms ahead, now the center of a brewing scandal. The entrance is completely swarmed by emergency vehicles and a frantic mob of people. Reporters surround the company representatives, shouting questions about the rumored murder of Professor Su. A spokesperson calmly adjusts his glasses, delivering a cold, calculated statement to dismiss the accusations. On the front lines, a news anchor broadcasts the chaotic scene live, detailing a possible homicidal incident inside the lab. High above the noise, President Lin watches the media circus from the shadows of his office. An assistant approaches cautiously, asking if they should take measures to suppress the public outcry. The president remains eerily calm, confident that the public's fleeting interest will soon fade away. His eyes narrow with cold authority as he shifts the focus back to his son's whereabouts. The assistant bows slightly, reporting that the young master has managed to evade capture once again. Clenching his fists, the president reveals a flash of frustration at his son's defiance. He sighs, knowing that no one can force the boy back unless he chooses to return on his own. The assistant acknowledges the immense trouble the heir is causing the family business. The president's tone shifts to a chilling curiosity as he asks about the daughter Professor Su left behind. With a sharp command, he orders his men to find her and bring her to him at once. Meanwhile, Jian Yi's taxi is caught in a gridlock of cars, unable to move toward the building. Frustrated by the delay, she stares out the window, her heart racing with every passing second. Unable to wait any longer, she shouts for the driver to stop so she can finish the journey on foot. She steps out of the car, her shoes hitting the pavement as she prepares to run. Jian Yi sprints through the traffic, clutching her father's research folder like a lifeline. Memories of her parents' happy faces flash through her mind, fueling her desperate pace. Tears stream down her face as she regrets every cold word she ever spoke to them. She wipes her eyes, her vision blurred by the crushing weight of her grief. Ahead, the traffic signals change, signaling a shift in the flow of the busy street. Without looking, she dashes into the middle of the crosswalk, focused only on reaching the building. A car horn blares as a vehicle rounds the corner, its headlights illuminating her path. Jian Yi looks up just in time to see the car barreling toward her, frozen in a moment of pure terror. High overhead, a plane streaks across the orange sky, signaling a final chance for a clean escape. Lin Feng stands amidst the city bustle, shielding himself from the sun with the very documents that could change everything. A painful memory flashes back, reminding him of the desperate moment he held a grieving Jian Xi. His phone vibrates with an urgent call that he can no longer afford to ignore. His contact warns him that the chairman's men are on the move, yet Lin Feng remains remarkably calm under the pressure. The voice on the other end pleads with him to get to the airport before his window of opportunity slams shut. Lin Feng's expression hardens as he realizes the magnitude of the danger unfolding at the laboratory. He glances down at the thick folder in his hand, containing the tragic history of the Su family research. With a heavy heart, he informs his ally that he has decided to stay and face the storm head-on. Without another word, he cuts the connection, decisively severing his last tie to a peaceful exit. He stares into the urban horizon, knowing Jian Xi is walking straight into a lethal trap. Back at the safe house, his tech specialist is left in total shock by the sudden silence of the line. The ally wonders if Lin Feng has lost his mind or simply forgotten the lethal stakes of this game. Miles away, the cold, imposing facade of a high-tech medical facility looms over the city landscape. Inside, the steady, rhythmic drip of an IV bag provides the only sound in the sterile room. Jian Xi lies motionless in the hospital bed, her head bandaged as she battles to regain consciousness. President Lin stands over her like a predator, his eyes devoid of any fatherly sympathy for the girl. He coldly instructs his staff to transfer her to a private Lingxi facility for absolute surveillance. His grip tightens on the stolen research folder, feeling the weight of the power now within his reach. A dark smirk crosses his face as he realized Professor Su's daughter is the ultimate leverage he needed. Lin Feng sprints through the corporate lobby, desperate to reach his father before the situation escalates further. He reaches the towering headquarters of the Lin Group, a monument built on decades of family secrets. A secretary stops him at the office entrance, claiming the chairman is away on an unannounced trip. Panic sets in as Lin Feng realizes Jian Xi might already be in his father's ruthless hands. Suddenly, a familiar face appears as the elderly Uncle Li steps out to greet the young master. Lin Feng demands to know why his father is hunting an innocent girl after destroying her parents' lives. Uncle Li sighs, preparing to reveal the shadow war involving a mysterious group known as the Clone Alliance. He explains how an unknown virus was used by their enemies to destabilize the company's global influence. For years, they have used Professor Su's genius to find a clinical cure for this rapidly mutating bioweapon. Lin Feng's eyes widen as he finally hears the forbidden name of the project: Taboo Stardust. Uncle Lai confirms that Professor Su was the only scientist who truly understood the project's devastating potential. Lin Feng realizes with horror that his father views Jian Xi not as a human, but as a living key to a weapon. The old man insists that with the chairman's health failing, they cannot afford to let the girl go free. Stealing his resolve, Lin Feng demands to be taken to his father's secret location immediately. High above the ocean, a secluded private island serves as the ultimate high-security fortress for the Lin family. Armed guards stand watch at the massive iron gates, ensuring no one enters or leaves the estate without permission. Sunlight streams through a grand window, overlooking the deceptive, calm beauty of the surrounding sea. Jian Yi finally stirs, her eyes fluttering open to find herself in a room of overwhelming, cold luxury. Her vision is blurred, but she senses the presence of a doctor and a man watching her from the shadows. President Lin steps forward into the light, his gaze piercing as he demands to know her name. Trembling with fear, Jian Yi sits up in the massive bed, realizing she is trapped in a gilded cage with a monster. Jian Yi clutches her bandaged head in distress, her eyes wide with the terrifying realization that her memories have completely vanished. President Lin stands by as physician confirms that severe brain trauma has stripped the girl of her past. Adjusting his glasses with cold indifference, the doctor declares that a girl without memories is nothing more than a useless burden. A sharp knock at the door interrupts the grim diagnosis as a servant announces the sudden arrival of the young master. President Lin scoffs at the news, surprised his son has finally bothered to acknowledge his own father. Lin Feng storms into the room with his jacket slung over his shoulder, ready to confront the man who holds his world captive. With a commanding presence, the heir orders the butler to remain outside so he can face his father alone. From her sickbed, Jian Yi's heart skips a beat as she recognizes the familiar face of the man who just entered. The doctor eyes her suspiciously, but she quickly masks her recognition, trembling as she denies knowing him to protect his cover. A sinister grin spreads across the doctor's face as he prepares a lethal dose of medicine to dispose of the worthless witness. The needle pierces the vial of euthanasia drug, a cold-blooded execution disguised as a medical procedure. Lin Feng's sharp eyes catch the glint of the needle, realizing in an instant that Jian Yi's life is in immediate danger. He moves like a blur, casting aside his jacket as he lunges forward to intercept the deadly injection. With a forceful strike, Lin Feng sends the corrupt physician crashing to the ground. The glass vial shatters against the floor, the lethal chemicals spilling harmlessly away from their target. President Lin remains unmoved by the chaos, mocking his son for abandoning respect to protect a mere girl. Lin Feng glares back with unwavering determination, making it clear that while his father can judge him, he will not allow Jian Xi to be harmed. In a moment of rare tenderness, Lin Feng offers a soft, reassuring smile to the girl who has lost everything. Under the vast, shimmering night sky, the two find a brief moment of peace as they stand hand in hand by the shore. Lin Feng gazes up at the constellations, sharing the quiet beauty of the heavens with the woman he refuses to lose. He gives her a new name, Stellar, promising to be her guide through the darkness of her forgotten past. His expression is filled with genuine affection as he explains that she is the one star that gives his life direction. Jian Xi looks up at him, her heart stirred by his words even as the weight of her missing memories lingers. She casts her gaze downward, plagued by the fear that she cannot provide the secrets or the freedom he truly needs. Back in the harsh reality of her recovery room, Jian Xi weeps in her sleep as the echoes of her trauma haunt her dreams. Lin Feng leans over her with intense concern, his voice filled with desperation as he tries to wake her from the nightmare. Tears soak her pillow as she struggles against the invisible pain that continues to grip her mind. Lin Feng pulls her close in a protective embrace, whispering words of comfort to let her know that she is finally safe. Trapped in a haze of confusion, Jian Xi clings to Lin Feng, desperate to know the truth about her parents and her past. Lin Feng pulls her close, explaining that his father's cruel plan to replace her with a double has backfired completely. He reveals the tactical advantage they now hold. The president is scheduled to depart for country Y this very day. The realization hits her that without his father's constant surveillance, they can finally step out from the shadows and live their lives. Jian Xi grips his shirt tightly, her mind racing with a newfound and burning desire for revenge. Across the estate, the guards finish packing the president's luggage, signaling the end of his stay on the island. An aide interrupts the silence to deliver an unexpected message. The young master has requested one final dinner before his departure. President Lin is genuinely taken aback, surprised that his son hasn't severed their ties after their recent bitter confrontation. The butler questions the president's methods, wondering why he continues to push his son's limits with such elaborate and painful deceptions. The president dismisses the concern, coldly stating that high morals are a luxury a true leader simply cannot afford. The butler sighs, admitting he'd actually be proud if the young master chose the path of a good man instead of a ruthless successor. President Lin views his son's acceptance of the fake girl as a sign of maturity, believing he's finally ready to take over the organization. A sleek black car arrives at the venue, marking the start of a high-stakes formal gathering where every look is a test. Jian Xi prepares herself for the performance of a lifetime, masking her internal fear behind a veil of elegance. She takes a steadying step forward, the click of her heel on the pavement echoing her resolve. Sensing her apprehension, Lin Feng pulls her into a supportive embrace to maintain their public facade for the cameras. She clutches her bag with white knuckles, bracing for the encounter with the man who tried to erase her. Lin Feng whispers a final reassurance, noting that his father's lack of empathy makes him blind to her true identity. Beneath the glow of a grand chandelier, the atmosphere at the dinner table remains thick with unspoken tension. The president doesn't mince words, bluntly telling his son that he knows the girl beside him is an imposter. Maintaining his composure, Lin Feng lies through his teeth, claiming that any girl will do as long as she captures his interest. President Lin searches his son's eyes, asking if this means he has finally abandoned the ghosts of his past. He studies Lin Feng's reaction intensely, looking for even a flicker of hesitation or deceit in his expression. Satisfied with the answer, he raises a glass to toast his son's supposed growth into a cold-hearted pragmatist. The president prepares to take his leave, promising that the weight of the entire organization will soon rest on Lin Feng's shoulders. Lin Feng offers a polite, final farewell as his father turns his back to depart for his flight. The president pauses for a moment, casting one last calculating glance back at the pair. Lin Feng keeps his expression perfectly neutral, refusing to let his guard down until the threat has left the room. A small, triumphant smile plays on the president's lips as he believes he has finally molded his perfect hair. Just as the door is about to close, Jian Xi calls out to him, stopping the powerful man in his tracks. She stares him down with a sharp, piercing gaze, demanding a private moment to settle a personal debt. Inside the quiet sanctuary of the study, President Lin signals that they are finally alone to speak freely. Standing tall and resolute, Jian Xi demands the truth regarding the mysterious past of the girl known as Stellar. The president scoffs, revealing he has known she was a replacement all along. But Jian Xi counters that Lin Feng has been deceiving him from the start. She defends the young master's actions, claiming there are secrets hidden even from his own son. With cold clarity, she drops a bombshell. Her memories have returned, and she is the true Stellar. In a flash of movement, she draws a handgun and levels it directly at the man who orchestrated her misery. President Lin is frozen in disbelief, his composure shattering as he stares down the barrel of the weapon. Jian Yi's eyes brim with tears of rage, her resolve only hardening despite the weight of the gun. She takes a calculated step forward, her voice trembling as she demands to know exactly how her parents died. The tension reaches a breaking point as she presses the muzzle against his head, forcing a final, lethal confrontation. Elsewhere in the estate, Lin Feng confers with Uncle Li, digging into the dark circumstances circumstances surrounding Professor Shu's death. He bluntly asks if his own father was the one responsible for the researcher's demise. Uncle Lai explains that the research was far too valuable for the president to ever consider such a drastic execution. Suddenly, a deafening gunshot echoes through the halls, signaling that something has gone horribly wrong. Lin Feng sprints toward the study, his heart racing as he fears for the worst. He rushes to catch his father's collapsing body, desperately screaming for immediate medical assistance. Glancing toward the window, Lin Feng's eyes narrow as he identifies a specific vehicle, making a hasty exit. Below the balcony, a sleek white sedan peels away from the mansion at high speed. Inside the getaway car, Xiaoning takes the wheel while Jian Xi sits in a state of stunned silence. They blast through the main gates, successfully leaving the chaos of the Lin mansion behind them. Jian Xi stares at her trembling hands, the reality of the trigger she just pulled finally beginning to sink in. Xiaoning watches her closely, his expression focused as he maintains control of their escape. He reaches out to steady her, offering a firm grip to anchor her through the sudden adrenaline crash. Jian Xi remains lost in thought, her mind a whirlwind of recovered memories and new trauma. Xiaoning turns his focus back to the road ahead, his mind already calculating their next strategic move. She breaks the silence to ask what method he used to suppress her memories, and he admits it was professional hypnotism. Determined to never be a pawn again, she insists on knowing every dark secret he has been hiding from her. He offers a subtle, knowing smile, agreeing to finally unveil the full truth. As they descend into the heart of the city, the search for the missing Dr. Xu becomes their top priority. The scene shifts to a desolate industrial warehouse bathed in the orange glow of a setting sun. A hand reveals the stardust disc, the final piece of a dangerous and long-hidden puzzle. A foot steps firmly near the data disk as the terms of a desperate exchange are finally set in motion. A deranged clown kicks back on a desk, mockingly claiming they don't have the antidote for the toxin. Amidst the cold concrete of the warehouse, the girl stands her ground against the clown's taunts while trying to secure the data. The clown's painted smile twists into something more sinister as he begins to question her true identity. Suddenly, armed guards close in from the shadows, trapping her in a lethal circle of steel and masks. The clown gestures toward a loaded handgun resting on the table, openly doubting she is the legendary Stellar. The scene shifts to the grim silence of the hospital's intensive care unit. Lin Feng stands in the hallway, his mind racing with the weight of his father's critical condition. Inside the sterile room, the fallen titan of the Lin family lies hooked up to life support, barely clinging to consciousness. President Lin struggles to find his voice, calling out to his son with a raspy, labored breath. Lin Feng rushes to his father's side, his usual cold composure cracking at the sight of the old man's vulnerability. He takes his father's hand in a rare display of emotion, a silent promise of loyalty passing between them. Despite the physical pain, the president insists that the recent betrayal is already a thing of the past. Lin Feng looks down, the fire of vengeance beginning to simmer behind his eyes. The president closes his eyes and coughs, claiming the shot was worth it, if it finally brought father and son closer together. Lin Feng stands tall, vowing to handle the technical fallout and hunt down those responsible for the chaos. His gaze hardens into a cold, lethal resolve as he prepares to strike back. Without another word, Lin Feng strides out of the room to begin his professional retaliation. Back in the bed, the president's demeanor shifts instantly as he prepares to issue his real orders. The loyal butler leans in to assist, questioning the identity of the person who actually pulled the trigger. The president's expression turns icy and calculating, showing no sign of paternal warmth. The butler listens in visible shock as the true, ruthless nature of the plan begins to unfold. The president demands the total elimination of any dangerous factors that could threaten his ultimate control. A murderous glint shines in his eyes as he decides that Jian Yi must disappear from his son's life forever. Lin Feng's boots click against the pavement as he exits the hospital with focused, lethal intent. He barks orders into his phone, demanding Jian Yi's exact location within 10 minutes or his subordinates will face the consequences. Surveying the city skyline, he mobilizes every technical resource to track his target's every move. His black sedan tears through the streets, a predator on a high-speed hunt. Suddenly, an unknown caller breaks the silence, his phone vibrating aggressively against the dashboard. On the other end, the clown laughs, offering Lin Feng the precise coordinates he's desperate for. Lin Feng grips the wheel, his eyes narrowing as he realizes the power dynamics of the game have just shifted. Meanwhile, the shadows deepen around the quiet, unsuspecting exterior of Dr. Xu's residence. Inside, a frantic figure rummages through stolen research papers, desperate to find the hidden truth. A sudden, sharp click echoes through the dark as a flashlight beam cuts through the air. The man spins around in a panic, caught like a deer in headlights by the unexpected intruders. Xiao Ning and Jian Yi step into the light, their faces grim and determined to get answers. Xiao Ning explains that he's been tracking the subtle clues left behind at the house during his secret investigations. The doctor stares back in silence, realizing that his deepest secrets are finally being dragged into the light. A sleek black sedan tears down the highway as Lin Feng races toward the coordinates provided by the clown. Gripping the steering wheel with one hand, he stares ahead with a gaze of cold, calculated focus. His eyes drift shut for a momentary lapse into a painful, lingering memory of the past. He remembers a time when a soft hand reached out, offering a promise to leave all the darkness behind. He had accepted that hand, believing they were finally starting a new life together in a different land. Under the cover of night, The two of them shared a small boat, convinced they were pulling toward freedom. The rhythmic sound of the oars hitting the water was the only thing breaking the silence of their escape. Lin Feng looked at her with genuine trust, completely unaware of the sudden shift in her expression. Without warning, she swings the heavy wooden oar, striking him with a brutal, unexpected blow. The force of the strike sends him reeling over the side, his fingers barely clinging to the edge of the vessel. She leaps gracefully from the boat to the shoreline, abandoning him to the dark waters without looking back. Soaked and broken, Lin Feng can only watch from the surf as the woman he trusted disappears into the night. A luxury yacht waits in the distance, revealing that her escape was planned long before they reached the shore. The memory of his father's warning rings in his ears, reminding him that he was nothing more than a tool to be used. Back in the present, Lin Feng's eyes burn with a renewed, vengeful hatred for Jian Xi. He slams the accelerator, weaving through traffic with a desperate need to find his target and settle the score. Meanwhile, at the medical facility, Stellar sits stoically as the technician prepares for the high-stakes procedure to begin. A finger taps against the classified documents detailing the clandestine research of the Su family. Dr. Su stands over a younger Stellar, pressing her to recall the highly confidential data displayed on his monitor. She stares at the complex diagrams with wide eyes, insisting she has no knowledge of her parents' secret project. The doctor remains skeptical, his gaze piercing as he evaluates whether she is truly telling the truth. He reveals the dark nature of the research. A lethal man-made virus designed for total subordinate control. The weight of the truth hits her as she realizes her parents were the architects of a biological nightmare. Dr. Su dismisses her shock, stating that their service to the organization is the only reason for her current life of luxury. Haunted by the sea, the young Stellar contemplates how she can ever make amends for her parents' mistakes. Her resolve hardens as she decides that her only path forward is to escape the island's control forever. When Lin Feng asks if they will be together after the escape, she offers no answer, her heart already hardened for the betrayal to come. Jian Xi feels the weight of the moment as she is pulled into a desperate embrace. Lin Feng holds her tight, finally confessing that he can't let her leave without knowing the truth of his heart. His gaze is unwavering as he admits that staying silent would be his greatest lifelong regret. Though the words touch her, Jian Xi remains focused on the cold reality that she must escape this place immediately. Her eyes drop, burdened by a secret mission that outweighs any personal desire. Under the vast, starlit sky, he offers her a solemn promise, unaware of the choice she is about to make. The scene shifts to the chilling aftermath where Lin Feng lies broken on the docks, left behind in the wake of her departure. Jian Xi stares back one last time, her expression hardened by the necessity of her betrayal. She turns her back on the man she cared for, walking across the dark sands to fulfill her duty. Every step forward is a heavy reminder of the bridge she is burning behind her. She vanishes into the night, resolved to stop the forbidden stardust virus from ever being used for evil again. High above, the moon watches over the beginning of her long and lonely journey for redemption. Later, she sits in a sterile interrogation room, providing the authorities with the technical data needed to take down the organization. The officer acknowledges the weight of her testimony, noting how vital this information is for their investigation into Dios. He extends a hand in a professional gesture of gratitude for her cooperation. Jian Xi stares at the offer of help, her mind still clouded by the guilt of her past actions. Her world shatters when a news report flashes on the screen, declaring that the young master of Dios is presumed dead. The shock hits her like a physical blow, her eyes widening in disbelief at the tragic outcome. Xiao Ning stands by her side, somberly confirming that the reports of the casualty are indeed true. Overwhelmed by the news, she collapses into her hands, the weight of her choice finally crushing her spirit. She weeps openly, confessing to Xiao Ning that she is the one responsible for Lin Feng's demise. Xiao Ning pulls her into a protective embrace, trying to convince her that she isn't to blame for the chaos. Desperate to escape the pain, she begs to forget everything, leading her to seek Dr. Shu's help to wipe her memories. Fragments of the past flicker through her mind, starting with their fateful first meeting at the airport. She recalls the isolation of the island and the cold determination she felt when she chose to leave him behind. Memories of Lin Feng's warmth resurface, reminding her of the brief moments of peace they shared. In the present, Jian Yi's eyes fly open as the floodgates of her suppressed history finally burst. She sits up in the recovery pod, the realization that Lin Feng is still alive shaking her to her core. Xiao Ning enters the room, immediately noticing that she has regained her lost consciousness. Determined to face her past, she stands up and declares that she must go to Lin Feng and end this cycle. Xiao Ning warns her that the man she once knew is gone, replaced by someone who views her as a lethal enemy. She refuses to listen, convinced that she can explain the truth and stop the violence before it's too late. The officer looks on with a mix of frustration and concern, knowing how dangerous her mission will be. Jian Yi draws a weapon, making it clear that she will not let anyone stand in the way of her resolution. She locks eyes with Xiaoning, her resolve as sharp as the steel in her hand. Xiaoning lunges forward to stop her, reminding her that she is a key witness who cannot be risked. He pulls her into a fierce, desperate hug, vowing that he will never let her disappear into the shadows again. Jian Xi holds on tightly, warning that she won't hesitate to pull the trigger if pushed too far. Xiaoning's eyes widen as he absorbs the sheer intensity of her resolve. She keeps him close, her face buried against him as she struggles with the weight of her choices. Jian Yi's gaze sharpens, her focus shifting entirely to the threat standing before them. Dr. Xu stands his ground, questioning why she's wasting time here instead of chasing after Lin Feng. The doctor mocks her, claiming she's playing both sides by clinging to a police officer while pining for a mafia here. Jian Yi glares at him, her patience wearing thin at his insulting insinuations. She raises her weapon with a steady hand, demanding he explain exactly what he means. Xu dismisses the threat with a smirk, asserting that the gun must be empty since it was given to her by Lin Feng. Jian Yi is visibly shaken, realizing the doctor knows far more about her recent encounter than he should. With a chilling grin, the doctor boasts about having eyes everywhere, monitoring every move of the Dias and Clown alliances. Jian Yi confronts him with the truth, asking if he knew her parents during their original virus research. He admits he was their assistant, looking back on their past with a cold, calculated sense of pity. Jian Yi watches in horror as the doctor's true, twisted ambitions begin to surface. He proposes a dark alliance, suggesting they use the forbidden stardust to wipe out Deus once and for all. Xiaoning interjects from the floor, warning her that this man likely played a hand in her parents' demise. Seeing his manipulation fail, the doctor's expression turns predatory as he draws a concealed blade. He lunges forward with a manic look, intending to eliminate the officer and force Jian Yi into cooperation. Xiaoning remains composed, tracking the doctor's lethal movement with clinical precision. A shot rings out, the bullet tearing through the doctor's sleeve and drawing blood. Jian Yi stands her ground, her weapon aimed perfectly to stop the doctor's assault without killing him. Stunned, the doctor stares at his wound, unable to comprehend how the weapon actually had ammunition. He collapses in defeat while Xiaoning looks on, the immediate danger finally neutralized. Jian Yi turns back to her companion, telling him it's time to call in the rest of the force. Xiaoning rises and places a supportive hand on her shoulder, acknowledging the strength she just displayed. He quickly gets on the radio, requesting an immediate tactical response to secure the clinic and the doctor. Jian Yi's mind is already miles away, focused on the location where Lin Feng is waiting. Xiaoning reaches out, his hand gently meeting hers in a gesture of silent solidarity. He looks at her with a soft smile, giving her his blessing to go and finish what she started. She looks back at him, her eyes shining with gratitude for his unwavering support. A shadow of sadness crosses her face as she realizes she must leave him behind to face her destiny. She pulls him into a tight, final embrace, whispering her thanks for everything he's done. As they pull apart, she offers a quiet apology, knowing the risk she is taking. Jian Yi rushes out of the psychological clinic, the weight of the doctor's revelations pushing her forward. She sprints into the distance, the silhouettes of her past and future finally converging. Dusk settles over a quiet, abandoned warehouse. Heavy boots cross the threshold into the dark. Lin Feng enters with a cold, focused expression. A masked clown waits, grinning in the shadows. The jester mockingly welcomes the young master. Lin levels his gun, demanding the girl's location. A sharp snap of fingers signals the reveal. An unconscious woman is callously pushed forward. Lin Feng's eyes narrow as he assesses the threat. He questions the clown's motives with steady aim. The villain claims a deal was struck for her life. Lin fires, but the bullet passes through the figure. The shot shatters a hidden electronic controller. Glitches ripple through the warehouse air. Lin realizes the enemy is a holographic projection. The image states the girl is now useless. The projection dissolves into a streak of light. Vents hiss, leaking highly flammable gas. Lin stands over the victim as the trap activates. He looks at the girl, sensing a deeper plot. Suspicion grows as he pieces the betrayal together. He recalls the doctor's deal while gripping his gun. Outside, Jian Yi finally reaches the location. She stares at the warehouse, prepared for confrontation. The hostage stares in shock as a barrel levels at her. Lin Feng demands the truth about her involvement in his father's demise. He towers over the fallen woman, dismissing her claims of ignorance. Lin Feng's expression hardens as the woman mentions a spy in his inner circle. Suddenly, a massive glass insulation cover slams down around the captive. Lin Feng realizes the trap has sprung as the woman frantically bangs against the glass. Outside, Jian Yi detects a lethal scent lingering in the air. Her eyes widen as she realizes the warehouse is a ticking time bomb. She screams for Lin Feng to get out immediately. Lin Feng turns sharply as Jian Yi rushes toward the danger zone. He stands ready, weapon drawn, as the warehouse begins to buckle. From a distance, a pair of binoculars tracks their every move. The clown laughs while brandishing a long-range rifle from the hillside. He settles into a firing position, lining up a deadly shot. The sniper crosshairs lock onto a volatile gas tank inside the building. With a sinister grin, the villain prepares to pull the trigger. Police cruisers race toward the site of the massive disaster. Civilians gather around a news report detailing the tragic warehouse explosion. Inside the quiet hospital, a nurse prepares medication for the survivors. The victim remains unconscious, fighting for her life in the ward. In a hazy memory, Lin Feng Feng and Jian Yi stand together under a starlit sky. A frustrated Jian Yi shouts at Lin Feng during a past disagreement. She lunges forward with a swift strike to catch him off guard. Lin Feng expertly intercepts the move, locking her hands in place. He pulls her close, questioning her true motivations. The peaceful vision fades as a hand reaches out through the thick smoke. In the present, Lin Feng uses his own body to shield Jian Yi from the falling rubble. Jian Yi jolts awake in a hospital bed, her memory a blur of fire and debris. Desperate for answers, she grabs the nurse's arm, her voice trembling as she asks if Lin Feng survived. The nurse tries to steady the frantic girl, insisting she remains still to recover from her injuries. Standing at the door, Xiaoning watches her with a heavy, silent expression. Recognition hits her as she weakly calls out to her trusted friend. He moves to her side, providing a pillar of support in her darkest hour. Overwhelmed by the weight of the tragedy, she falters and leans into him for comfort. Later, under a clear sky, Xiaoning stands by Jian Yi as she mourns at a quiet gravesite. A vibrant bouquet of yellow chrysanthemums is laid down as a final tribute. Xiaoning flickers a lighter, setting Lin Feng's official case file ablaze to bury the past. As the ashes drift away, he holds her close, declaring that the nightmare has finally reached its end. The sun shines over the final resting place, marking a somber conclusion to their shared struggle. However, Xiaoning returns to the charred remains of the warehouse, his boots crunching over the wreckage. He reaches into the dust with a gloved hand, retrieving a metallic object that shouldn't be there. Examining the bullet casing, he confirms his grim suspicion that the explosion was no mere accident. A vibration interrupts his investigation as a call comes through on his mobile. On the other end, a revitalized Jian Yi chats happily while preparing a meal in her kitchen. She jokes about her busy schedule and the need to stay on top of her mortgage payments. Stirring a pot of fresh soup, she offers to cook a celebratory dinner for her savior. Xiaoning, back on duty near his patrol car, regretfully declines due to his demanding police work. She takes a moment to sincerely thank him for everything he's done to help her move forward. He reassures her with a soft smile, reminding her that family always looks out for one another. After hanging up, he stares at the device, carrying the weight of the secrets he still holds. Jian Yi puts her phone down, feeling a sense of peace she hasn't known in a long time. Suddenly, a familiar hand reaches out, gently resting against her as she works. Lin Feng appears behind her, alive and well, joining her in the warmth of the kitchen. He leans in toward her, surprising her with his sudden and playful presence. The two share a quiet, supportive moment together, finally safe from the shadows of their past. Lin Feng leans in close, his voice dropping as he sharply asks if the officer, Xiaoning, is truly with the police. Jian Yi quickly explains that Xiaoning was recently promoted and is currently fulfilling his professional duties overseas. Lin Feng's expression shifts as he specifically mentions country Y, questioning the exact details of the officer's deployment. Caught off guard by the specific detail, Jian Yi asks with a glimmer of hope if he has finally started to remember his past. He offers a subtle, knowing smile, keeping his true thoughts guarded as he maintains his composure. Jian Yi stares back at him, her eyes wide with a mix of surprise and intense anticipation. Lin Feng reaches out to gently steady her, bringing her focus back to the immediate conversation. He playfully asks if she is merely trying to stall for time, breaking the heavy tension with a lighthearted remark. In the kitchen, the steam rises rapidly as a pot of water begins to boil over on the stove. The two share a moment of intense mutual focus, leaning in as they find strength in their shared isolation. Beneath the heavy atmosphere of the night, the cold city lights flicker across the sprawling urban landscape. On a secluded high-rise rooftop, Xiaoning's partner takes a slow drag from a cigarette while monitoring the city below. The partner voices his deep suspicion, wondering aloud if Lin Feng is actually faking his amnesia to manipulate the situation. Xiaoning remains stoic, acknowledging that for the time being, they still require her cooperation to move the investigation forward. His gaze hardens as he vows to take whatever action is necessary to solve the case, regardless of the personal cost. Looking up at the dark void above, Xiaoning observes that the night sky is completely devoid of stars. The silence of the firing range is shattered by a sequence of rhythmic gunshots hitting the paper target. Despite her concentration, the bullet holes are scattered wildly around the outer rings of the bullseye. Jian Yi stares down the range with intense frustration, her eyes narrowing behind her protective goggles. From a distance, she maintains her stance as a familiar figure approaches her training station. She finally lowers her weapon with a mechanical click, letting the spent brass casings clatter onto the table. Xiaoming steps in to gently remove her ear protection, noting that her aim is uncharacteristically off today. Jian Yi looks away with a grim expression, admitting that her internal turmoil is making it impossible to stay steady. To sharpen her focus, she pulls out a specific photograph and suggests pinning it directly onto the target. Her expression shifts to one of cold calculation as she stares at the man's face in the photo. With a sharp, practiced motion, she readies her handgun as her grip tightens with newfound purpose. She raises the barrel once more, aligning the sights perfectly with the center of her enemy's forehead. A dark shadow falls over her face as she silently promises that this person will pay for their crimes. In a flash of pure resolve, she vows to eventually take down the scum with her own two hands. The scene shifts back 5 years, showing a secret folder being handed over during a much more peaceful time. Jian Yi stands under the shade of a tree, thanking Xiaoming for his professional assistance with the investigation. Xiaoming explains that her intel on forbidden stardust is finally allowing the police to develop a cure. As they discuss the mission, the ring on her finger serves as a reminder of the life she was planning to build. Xiaoming watches her with a look of genuine admiration for her dedication to the cause. Jian Xi reaches out, curious about the sudden change in the conversation's tone. He holds up a small gift box with a warm smile, offering his sincere congratulations on her upcoming wedding. Her eyes widen into sparkling stars, completely overwhelmed by the thoughtful gesture from her colleague. Clutching the gift to her face, she radiates pure joy, a stark contrast to the hardened warrior she is destined to become. The city streets hum with life as a bright afternoon sets the perfect stage for a long-awaited outing. Jian Ya holds on tight, her ring catching the light as she clings to the man she loves. With a sweet treat in hand, she leans into Lin Feng, savoring this rare moment of peace. Her eyes suddenly lock onto a stunning black gown shimmering in a nearby display window. Noticing her interest, Lin Feng encourages her to go ahead and buy the dress if she likes it. However, the nearly 5,000 yuan price tag is a quick reality check for her wallet. She dismisses the idea, insisting that such an expensive piece would only sit in her closet collecting dust. The duo decides to browse a high-end boutique to find some sharp new attire for Lin Feng instead. A sales clerk quickly approaches, presenting a premium suit from their most exclusive collection. The employee is instantly struck by the customer's striking features and natural poise. Even in his casual clothes, Lin Feng carries an air of natural elegance that demands attention. The sight of him looking so sharp leaves both the staff and Jian Yi momentarily breathless. Swept up in the excitement, Jian Yi impulsively decides that they have to take the outfit. Her confidence vanishes the second she spots the astronomical 28,000 yuan price tag. The sheer number of zeros on the label sends Jian Yi into a total state of mental shock. She spirals into a comical panic, her brain completely unable to process the math behind such a high cost. Dizzied by the price, she tries to drag Lin Feng away under the guise of exploring other stores. The clerk's polite facade crumbles as she mocks Jian Yi for being a plebeian who can't afford the luxury. Jian Yi is left fuming at the blatant disrespect and classism from the store staff. Suddenly, a mysterious woman with a gold VIP card intervenes, flashing her wealth for everyone to see. She buys up the entire collection instantly, earning a groveling thanks from the greedy clerk. Jian Yi stands there, completely speechless at the stranger's display of raw financial power. She urges Lin Feng to leave, figuring there's no point in staying now that the suit has been sold. But the wealthy stranger isn't done, reaching out a gloved hand toward the handsome Lin Feng. She boldly offers the expensive outfit to him as a gift, clearly trying to buy his attention. Jian Yi's jealousy flares as she imagines physically knocking the woman out for her audacity. Lin Feng remains cold and professional, refusing the gesture and maintaining a strict distance. The woman persists, placing a hand on his arm while inviting him out for a drink. Without hesitation, Lin Feng catches her wrist in a firm, unyielding grip to stop her advance. The woman sneers, asking if he's choosing Jian Yi over the massive fortune she can offer. Jian Yi remains quiet, her head bowed as the social tension in the room reaches a boiling point. Moving with protective intent, Lin Feng steps forward to shield his partner from the woman's gaze. He reaches down and gently takes hold of Jian Yi's hand in his own. Lifting her hand high, he prominently displays the ring that symbolizes their commitment. In a final, crushing blow to the stranger's ego, he declares that Jian Yi is his wife. Lin Feng stands firm by Jian Yi's side, leaving the wealthy socialite stunned by his sudden and public declaration of marriage. Even as they walk away, the woman desperately tries to bargain, claiming she doesn't mind his marital status if it means having him around. Her persistence is quickly cut short as staff members are forced to literally drag her away from the scene. The chaos doesn't end there, as a talent scout immediately swoops in, hoping to recruit the handsome Lin Feng for the entertainment industry. Another passerby can't help but shoot a flirtatious comment toward him, completely drawn in by his striking looks. Fed up with the unwanted attention, Lin Feng humorously shoos the crowd away to keep his focus entirely on Jian Yi. They finally find a moment of peace, ducking into a quiet side street to escape the prying eyes of the public. Jian Yi teases him about his overwhelming popularity, noting just how much attention he attracts wherever they go. Lin Feng playfully challenges her, asking if she's genuinely worried about someone whisking him away. Jian Yi offers a reassuring smile, promising to buy him that expensive outfit herself once her next bonus hits. She ponders the price tag for a moment, clearly determined to treat him despite their current financial stress. Lin Feng stops her there, asserting his role as the man of the house and vowing to provide for her instead of the other way around. He gently places a hand on her head, signaling his absolute resolve to take care of their future together. Jian Yi softens under his touch, feeling a rare and much-needed sense of security in his presence. As they talk, the conversation shifts toward the mysterious circumstances of the accident that wiped his memory. Lin Feng admits the heavy weight of his amnesia, feeling as though he's been completely severed from the rest of the world. Jian Xi listens intently, her heart aching for the isolation and confusion he must be feeling every day. His gaze turns distant, searching for a past that remains frustratingly just out of reach. Jian Xi opens up about her own losses, mentioning her parents as a shared point of grief and understanding. Lin Feng watches her closely, realizing they are both survivors of their own personal tragedies. He pulls her into a firm, protective embrace, offering the only comfort he can provide in this moment. He whispers that the past is behind them, and they only need to focus on what lies ahead. In the quiet alley, they lean on each other, two souls finding a home in the midst of total uncertainty. Lin Feng's expression hardens with a new sense of purpose as he holds her close. His eyes flash with a sharp intensity, hinting at the powerful and decisive figure he might have once been. Meanwhile, in a high-stakes corporate environment, a new professional chapter begins with a formal handshake. A sophisticated woman is officially welcomed as the new human resources manager for a major firm. She accepts her new responsibilities with a professional poise, ready to begin the upcoming recruitment process. High above the city streets, the company's headquarters stands as a monolith of corporate power and influence. Settling into her new office, the manager begins sifting through a mountain of applicant files. Her eyes widen as she catches sight of a familiar face among the many digital resumes. She pulls the document closer, hardly able to believe the profile she is looking at. Staring back at her from the page is the resume of Lin Feng, a discovery that is sure to shatter the peaceful life he has built with Jian Xi. Under the cover of night, the apartment building stands silent as Jian Xi finally returns home. She steps through the threshold, looking completely drained from another grueling day at the office. Lin Feng is waiting right there, concerned by just how late she stayed out this time. Jian Xi doesn't say a word, simply collapsing into a supportive embrace to recharge. She leans into him, admitting that the recent workload has been nearly impossible to manage. Lin Feng looks down with a soft gaze, insisting that she take tomorrow off to properly recover. Before she can protest, he lifts her up effortlessly to make sure she actually gets some rest. He carries her down the hallway, focused entirely on her well-being. The bedroom door clicks shut, sealing away the stress of the outside world for the night. The moon eventually gives way to a bright morning sun, signaling the start of a brand new day for the city. While Jian Xi is still fast asleep, Lin Feng reaches for her phone to handle her morning tasks. He carefully types out a professional message to her boss, requesting a sick leave on her behalf. He leans in for a brief, innocent forehead kiss before leaving her to rest in peace. He watches her for a moment longer, smiling at her stubborn dedication to her career. A nutritious breakfast is already prepared on the table, waiting for her to wake up. Lin Feng grabs his blazer, shifting his focus toward his own professional responsibilities. He straightens his tie and prepares to head out, looking every bit the high-powered executive. The scene moves to a sophisticated cafe where a high-stakes meeting is about to take place. Lei Xiang sits alone, intently studying the resume that has caught her expert eye. She pushes a strand of hair aside, unable to shake the feeling of familiarity from the profile. Her colleague approaches, surprised that Lei Xiang wants to conduct this specific interview personally. The coworker jokes about the candidate's impressive appearance, but Lei Xiang remains strictly professional. She clarifies that her interest is based on a chance encounter she once had with him. Lei Xiang looks down thoughtfully, wondering if this meeting will provide the answers she's seeking. A slight blush reveals her hidden anticipation at the thought of hearing his voice once again. She stirs her tea while contemplating if this is the moment she can finally move on. A firm hand grasps the door handle, signaling that the candidate has finally arrived. Lin Feng steps into the room with absolute confidence, unaware of the history he shares with the woman waiting inside. Lin Feng sits across from the executive, questioning if she is indeed his interviewer. A sudden accident sends a coffee cup tipping over the table. Lei Xiang scrambles to clean the spill, her professional composure momentarily slipping. She pauses, looking up with a hint of bashful realization. Lin Feng remains stoic, his intense gaze fixed on the woman across from him. The pair settles into a formal conversation within the sunlit cafe. Leaning forward, Li Xiang inquires why a man of his stature is seeking employment. Lin Feng admits his past is a blank slate due to his total memory loss. The revelation leaves the executive visibly stunned and wide-eyed. Sensing a connection, Lin Feng asks if they shared a history before his accident. The interview concludes as he stands to leave, throwing on his coat with purpose. His expression sharpens as he notices a familiar face watching from the shadows. Inspector Xiao steps forward, demanding to know the nature of his meeting with the executive. Lin Feng counters, questioning why a standard job interview warrants police scrutiny. The inspector presses closer, skeptical of the professional facade. Lin Feng explains that while his memory is gone, the woman's affinity for him is clear. Xiao warns him against playing games with people from his forgotten past. The inspector falls silent, weighed down by the complexity of the situation. Lin Feng insists that finding a job is his only priority for survival. He leans in with a smirk, reminding the officer that his social interactions aren't a crime. Back at the table, hands remain clasped near the empty coffee cup. Lei Xiang stares down, her face flushed with a mixture of hope and confusion. She carefully holds the contact card Lin Feng left behind. Clasping her hands to her chest, she realizes this encounter has changed everything. Jian Yi gazes at Xiao Ming, her expression soft as she addresses him with familiar warmth. Seated across from the inspector, she defends Lin Feng's recent actions as a simple desire to help carry her burdens. She offers a gentle smile, certain that any past connection between Lin Feng and Hui Xiang is strictly a thing of the past. However, Xiao Ming looks away, his profile hardening as he warns her that the reality is far more complex. He leans forward with a sharp gaze, revealing that his intelligence reports show Hui Xiang is actively hunting for the amnesiac heir. Jian Yi's face settles into a mask of disbelief as Xiao Ming suggests that Lin Feng's memory loss might be a calculated lie. Taking a calm sip of her drink, she remains steadfast in her trust, insisting that Lin Feng would never deceive her. Xiao Ming casts his eyes downward, clearly unconvinced by her unwavering faith in the man. The scene shifts to the Vice Chief Inspector's office, where the atmosphere is thick with professional tension. Standing before the window, Xiao Ming presents his findings, fearing that Lin Feng is leveraging mysterious contacts in Country Y. A disheveled man scoffs at the report, arguing that investigating every one of Lin Feng's leads is a waste of their limited resources. This rival officer, Inspector Jia, flashes a smug look that suggests he has his own agenda for the case. Sensing the interference, Xiao Ming sternly orders everyone not directly involved in the briefing to clear the room. Jia dismissively claps a hand on Xiao Ming's shoulder, claiming that there are no outsiders in this high-stakes discussion. Suddenly, a senior official interjects, coldly announcing that the Lin Feng investigation is being handed over to Inspector Jia. Xiao Ming's composure shatters, his voice rising in a desperate demand for an explanation. The superior points a finger, claiming that Xiao Ming's personal history with the Su family has made him emotionally compromised. Frustration boils over as Xiao Ming clenches his fist, physically restrained by the bureaucratic wall he's hit. He shouts his defiance, refusing to let his professional integrity be questioned over his personal ties. Taking advantage of the moment, Jia leans in close to deliver a final blow, revealing that the bureau is exiling Xiao Ming to Country Y. With a sinister glint in his eye, Jia tells his rival to step aside and leave the heavy lifting to him. Later on the street, Jian Yi is stunned into silence by a phone call detailing Xiao Ming's sudden departure from the country. High above the intersection, the traffic light glows a steady red, mirroring the sudden halt in their progress. Jian Yi stands alone in the middle of a bustling crowd, haunted by the inspector's final warning to keep a close eye on Lin Feng. The pedestrian signal finally switches to green, urging the crowd forward into the busy crosswalk. She begins to cross the street, her mind racing as she tries to reconcile her trust with the inspector's doubts. Her eyes suddenly widen in shock as a familiar figure catches her attention from the other side of the road. Her heart sinks as she spots Lin Feng walking through the crowd, accompanied by a woman with long purple hair. Jian Yi clutches her phone, her face a mask of resolve as she promises to take Xiao Ming's warning about Lin Feng's deception to heart. From a distance, she spots Lin Feng walking through the city streets alongside a mysterious woman with flowing purple hair. Lin Feng maintains a polite but reserved demeanor, while the woman looks up at him with an unmistakable, glowing fondness. She gazes at him with a tender smile, admitting that her only reason for requesting this meeting was simply a desire to see him again. Watching from the shadows, Jian Yi realizes that a confrontation in a city this small was always an inevitable outcome. Her suspicion deepens as she wonders why Lin Feng would risk everything just to meet with this specific woman. If Lin Feng really is trying to reach external organizations as Xiao Ming suggested, Jian Yi can't understand why he'd use Hui Xiang as the bridge. Lin Feng keeps the interaction strictly professional, his voice cold as he asks the woman if they have ever actually met before. The question hits Hui Xiang like a physical blow, her eyes widening in disbelief as she asks if he has truly forgotten her. She drops a devastating truth, claiming that in the past, he had even introduced her to others as his girlfriend. Stunned by the confession, Jian Yi feels the world tilt as she listens to the woman's claim from her hiding spot. Lin Feng grits his teeth, his expression darkening as if fighting against the fog clouding his memories. Without a word of comfort, he turns his back on her, ready to walk away from the heavy weight of the past. He delivers a crushing final blow, reminding her that he and Jian Yi are already legally bound to one another in marriage. Hui Xiang looks down, her expression hardening with the desperate need to protect the future she envisioned for herself. Jian Yi finally steps out of the shadows, her voice steady as she calls out Hui Xiang's name. Startled by the sudden appearance, Hui Xiang spins around to find herself face to face with the woman she's trying to replace. Jian Yi locks eyes with her rival, her gaze burning with the fierce authority of a wife defending her territory. Hui Xiang is momentarily silenced, caught off guard by the sheer intensity of Jian Yi's unwavering resolve. Jian Yi tells her bluntly that she had no right to involve herself in a life and a relationship she knows nothing about. Hui Xiang refuses to back down, lashing out and questioning if Jian Yi is actually speaking for Lin Feng or just for her own ego. The sharp retort leaves Jian Xi speechless for a heartbeat as she processes the accusation. Hui Xiang doubles down on the attack, accusing Jian Xi of being a selfish captor who only wants to lock Lin Feng away for her own benefit. Hui Xiang lashes out at Jian Xi, accusing her of trapping Lin Feng in a cage for her own selfish desires. The sharp accusation hits home, leaving Jian Xi momentarily speechless as she processes the weight of those words. Sudden nausea washes over her, but she is soon joined by a towering shadow looming from behind. Lin Feng steps in, pulling his wife into a protective embrace and declaring that their family matters are none of Hui Xiang's business. He shoots a cold, warning glare at the intruder, telling her point blank to stop poking her nose into their lives. Without another word, he guides the distressed Jian Xi away, leaving the confrontation behind. Later, amidst a serene garden backdrop, Jian Xi explains that she only crossed paths with that woman during a recent interview. Lin Feng looks down at her with genuine concern, asking if the encounter has left her feeling unhappy. Jian Xi winces, admitting that she doesn't just feel bad mentally, but is physically unwell. Seeing her distress, Lin Feng immediately vows to never see that woman again to ensure Jian Yi's peace of mind. However, Jian Xi clarifies that the issue is more than just her mood. Her body is reacting strangely. She suddenly lurches forward, unable to contain the rising sickness any longer. At the hospital, the doors to the obstetrics department open to a life-changing revelation as the doctor announces her pregnancy. The news leaves Lin Feng stunned, his usual composure giving way to a moment of pure, silent shock. Clinging to the ultrasound photos, Jian Yi's face lights up with joy as she realizes she is finally going to be a mother. Lin Feng pulls her into a warm hug, the two of them sharing a tender, celebratory moment over the new life they've created. Later that night, the house falls into a heavy, uneasy silence. Jian Xi rests in the dim light of their bedroom, drifting through a restless sleep. Her eyes snap open in the dark, sensing something out of place in the quiet room. She sits up cautiously, her maternal instincts already on high alert as she listens to the shadows. Jian Xi sits up in the dark, haunted by the fear of losing her child. Lin Feng arrives with groceries, eager to nourish his pregnant wife. He gives her a gentle, reassuring look, hiding his exhaustion. Lin Feng promises to prepare a meal to help her recover. He reaches into his pocket to set his phone aside. The device clatters onto the table, unattended and tempting. Jian Xi stares at the phone, her mind racing with suspicion. She recalls his mysterious behavior from the previous night. The screen remains locked, a barrier to the truth she seeks. A plan forms in her eyes to bypass the security. She announces her departure to use lotion, creating a clever distraction. The trap is set with the lotion tube left right beside the target. Lin Feng focuses on his culinary duties, completely unaware of her scheme. He remains preoccupied with his tasks in the kitchen. The sound of the shower provides the perfect auditory cover. Jian Xi carefully examines the keypad for telltale finger marks. She lifts the device, ready to confirm her doubts. The home screen flickers to life, granting her full access. Guilt washes over her as she begins her unauthorized search. She scrolls through the recent call logs with a trembling hand. An unknown number from the previous night catches her eye. She quickly scribbles the digits onto a scrap of paper. The water stops, signaling the end of her privacy. Jian Xi stands frozen, clutching the evidence of her investigation. She grips the note tightly, fearing what the number represents. Lin Feng suddenly appears, revealing the pin was her birthday all along. She gasps in shock as he catches her red-handed. Lin Feng looms over Jian Xi, teasingly asking if she's a cat since she's been sneaking around behind his back. He catches her soft whisper, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. Wrapping her in a firm embrace, he notes that just as cats sense tension, he can feel the unease radiating off her. His gaze softens but remains probing, demanding to know the source of her anxiety. Jian Xi blushes deeply, quickly blaming her jittery nerves on pregnancy hormones and heightened sensitivity. Lin Feng leans in close, taking the blame upon himself for not dedicating enough time to her needs. Seeking an escape from the stress, Jian Xi later heads out for a massive feast of burgers, fries, and hot dogs. She dives into the meal with reckless abandon, stuffing her face to forget her worries. Every bite of the junk food seems to bring her a temporary, blissful surge of joy. Her friend looks on in total shock, questioning if such a greasy diet is safe for the baby. Looking at the mountain of food, the friend threatens to call Lin Feng, reminding Jian Xi of the doctor's strict dietary warnings. The threat of her husband's intervention makes Jian Xi freeze mid-bite. She frantically pleads with her friend, complaining that Lin Feng's strict rules make her feel like she's living in a prison. She tries to justify the indulgence, claiming the doctor gave her a clean bill of health for an occasional treat. A server arrives at the table, presenting a towering, decadent chocolate sundae. Jian Yi's eyes light up with pure obsession at the sight of the cold dessert. Her friend tries one last time to intervene, warning her that the icy treat might be too much. Ignoring the advice, Jian Yi closes her eyes in ecstasy as she savors the cold sweetness. After the massive meal, Jian Yi leans back, completely satisfied despite her friend's lingering concern. Seeing her friend's exhaustion, the companion sighs and prepares to escort the pregnant woman home. As they step out into the city air, Jian Yi begins to recite her home address. Suddenly, her expression shifts from satisfaction to a hollow, dazed look of discomfort. She doubles over, leaning heavily on her friend as a sharp pain takes hold. Panic sets in as the friend desperately asks for a family member's contact information to call for help. Jian Yi can barely focus, her vision blurring as the physical toll of the meal catches up to her. An ambulance races through the city streets, its sirens cutting through the air in a desperate rush to the hospital. Inside the hospital room, the friend breaks down in tears, blaming herself for letting the lunch outing spiral out of control. Slowly, Jian Xi regains consciousness, her eyes fluttering open as she takes in the sterile surroundings. Her heart sinks when she spots the last person she expected to see. The banished rival, Hui Xiang, standing right there in the room. The morning sun hits the sterile glass of the hospital where Jian Yi's world has just been turned upside down. Awakening to a nightmare, Jian Yi demands to know why her rival is standing over her bed. Hui Xiang sits with an air of unearned authority, watching the weakened wife with a calculated gaze. The interloper reveals that a friend reached out, but she's dying to know how they even got her private digits. Jian Yi's heart sinks as she confesses to finding the contact hidden deep within her husband's phone. The realization hits like a physical blow. This woman is the mysterious owner of the number that's been haunting her. Hui Xiang maintains a mask of cool indifference, processing the wife's accusation. She quickly weaves a tale of a professional interview and a rejected job offer to explain her connection to Lin Feng. Jian Yi isn't buying the lies, pointing out the glaring gap between a months-old interview and a very recent phone call. Caught in a logical trap, Hui Xiang struggles to maintain her composure as her story begins to fray. Jian Yi's eyes flash with a mother's protective fire as she dares the woman to claim there is truly nothing between them. The heavy tension is suddenly shattered when a friend stumbles into the room, frozen by the sight of the confrontation. Dark thoughts of betrayal and shattered vows swirl through the air like a suffocating fog. A heavy footfall echoes in the corridor, signaling the arrival of the man at the center of this storm. Lin Feng charges through the door, barely acknowledging the stunned bystander in his path. Panic colors his voice as he calls out for his wife, desperate to find her safe. Hui Xiang immediately tries to pivot, her hands raised as she prepares to spin a new web of explanations. She reaches out to grab his sleeve, desperate for a moment of his undivided attention. Lin Feng brushes past her without a second thought, his only concern being Jian Yi's physical well-being. Jian Yi remains cold and distant, unable to meet the eyes of the man she no longer feels she can trust. Standing on the sidelines, Hui Xiang's expression surely shifts as she realizes she's been completely ignored. Lin Feng finally turns his gaze toward her, his voice dropping to a dangerous, low growl as he demands to know her purpose. She plays the martyr, claiming her presence was a selfless act of support from the shadows. His eyes narrow with sharp suspicion, wondering if her help actually caused this medical crisis. Sensing the erupting conflict, the friend steps in to try and diffuse the situation as a simple misunderstanding. Lin Feng looks back, his mind racing to connect the dots between his wife, his past, and this unwanted guest. With the medical crisis averted for now, the doctor clears Jian Yi for discharge with a strict warning about her nutrition. A sleek black sedan waits at the curb, ready to whisk the fractured couple away from the public eye. Lin Feng carries his wife in his arms like she's made of glass, leaving Hui Xiang to stew in the hospital's shadow. The friend doesn't hold back, cornering Hui Xiang and asking if she feels any remorse for tearing a family apart. Hui Xiang recoils, offended by the suggestion that she is the villain in this complicated drama. She bristles with indignation, challenging the idea that her actions were anything but helpful. A flicker of genuine shock crosses her face as the weight of the accusation finally lands. She turns on her heel, demanding to know what right an outsider has to judge her intentions. The friend delivers a harsh dose of reality, telling her she's too talented to be wasting her life clinging to another woman's husband. She stares her down with unwavering intensity, urging her to let go of this obsession for everyone's sake. Hui Xiang scoffs at the advice, storming away while clinging to her pride and her dangerous secrets. The sun glints off the glass of their high-rise apartment as a heavy conversation unfolds inside. Lin Feng stands close behind his wife, offering to raise Hui Xiang's contact to prove his loyalty. Jian Yi stares into the distance, quietly admitting that deleting a number won't fix the doubt in her heart. She grips her hands tightly, blaming her own insecurity for the rift forming between them. Lin Feng listens in silence, his gaze sharpening with a mix of concern and hidden resolve. He gently reaches out, resting his hands on her as she carries the weight of their future, pulling her into a protective embrace. He tells her to leave the truth to the passage of time. His eyes narrow, signaling a man who is ready to go to any length to prove he is worthy of her trust. Jian Yi forces a faint smile, even as her inner thoughts scream that she's merely hiding from a crumbling reality. Meanwhile, in a room shrouded in shadows, a mysterious figure watches the city through slatted blinds. He dismissively crushes his cigarette, tired of the games dragging on for so long. With a chilling smirk, he notes that everything is finally in place for the arrival of the story's newest actor. Suddenly, the peace of the night is shattered by the wailing sirens of a speeding ambulance. Inside, Jian Yi is doubled over in agony, clutching her pregnant stomach as labor begins prematurely. The nurse on board urges her to stay strong, promising they are nearly at the medical facility. On the sidewalk, a passing couple stops to watch the vehicle race through the dark streets. The woman frowns, confused by the name of the hospital she thought she saw on the side of the van. Her partner reminds her that such a place was exposed as a fraud and shuttered years ago. They watch in growing suspicion as the ambulance heads toward a district with no legitimate hospitals in sight. The scene shifts to a cold, sterile room illuminated by the harsh glare of surgical lights. A doctor pulls on their surgical gloves, preparing for a procedure that feels far from routine. Jian Xi looks around frantically from the table, begging to know where her husband is. A gloved hand reaches out to steady her, claiming that a family member has already been informed. Jian Yi's vision blurs as she wonders who could possibly be waiting outside other than Lin Feng. The silhouettes of the medical staff loom over her like shadows, casting a grim atmosphere over the delivery. In a dark office elsewhere, a phone vibrates with an urgent message from Xiao Ning regarding Lin Feng's movements. The long-haired mastermind stands over a glowing aquarium, indifferent to the chaos he's unleashed. Without a second thought, he drops the burner phone into the water, letting it sink among the goldfish. He adjusts his earpiece, questioning his subordinates about the progress of their sinister plan. Turning his back on the sinking evidence, he walks away to oversee the final act of his scheme. High above the city lights, the mastermind reminds his captive that the organization has invested too much time and resources to fail now. He notes the time with cold calculation, knowing his subordinate Xiao Ning will soon realize he's been deceived and call for reinforcements. The mastermind reveals his clever play, explaining how the police were completely duped by a mole hidden within their own ranks. With a chilling calm, he grants Lin Feng a final 30-minute ultimatum to abandon his post and leave. A sinister smile creeps across his face as he threatens to force the doctors to perform an immediate, high-risk C-section on Jian Xi. Lin Feng's expression hardens into a mask of fury as he warns the man that he wouldn't dare touch her. The antagonist merely scoffs at the threat, mocking Lin Feng's sudden display of protective hesitation. Miles away, Xiao Ning pushes his vehicle to the limit, racing against the clock to reach the target location before the situation turns fatal. Back at the facility, the mastermind looms over Lin Feng, relishing the psychological upper hand he currently holds. He begins to pry into Lin Feng's personal life, mockingly asking which of the two women in his orbit he truly loves. Lin Feng remains stoic and unresponsive, refusing to let his enemy see even a flicker of emotion. The mastermind breaks into a fit of dark laughter, obsessed with the idea of finally uncovering the boss's one true weakness. Lin Feng maintains his distance, coldly stating that he doesn't harbor feelings for either of the women involved. His eyes reflect a chilling indifference, signaling a man who has completely detached himself from his past connections. Suddenly, a phone screen cuts through the darkness, displaying an incoming call from Lin Feng to Hui Xiang. Hui Xiang answers with a look of desperate hope, believing this call might be the reconciliation she's been waiting for. She softly asks for his contact information abroad, clinging to the idea of maintaining a professional friendship once he leaves. Lin Feng listens to her voice with a cold, unwavering focus, prepared to sever their ties once and for all. Hui Xiang blushes as she speaks, entirely unaware of the devastating truth that is about to be delivered. Without a shred of mercy, Lin Feng tells her plainly that he never liked her and has been using her from the very beginning. The shock hits Hui Xiang like a physical blow, leaving her speechless as her world begins to crumble. She frantically tries to deny his words, begging him to admit that he must feel at least a small spark of affection for her. Lin Feng shuts her down with absolute cruelty, declaring that he doesn't even care enough to remember her name. He stares coldly into the night, stating with finality that this will be the last time they ever communicate. With a decisive motion, he hangs up the phone, effectively erasing her from his life. Hui Xiang is left in total silence, staring at the dead device in her hand as the weight of his betrayal settles in. Meanwhile, inside the sterile walls of the clinic, the surgical team focuses intensely on the high-pressure delivery. Jian Xi is drenched in sweat and overwhelmed by pain, her only thought being the safety of the child she's carrying. The lead doctor urges her to stay focused, coaching her through the final, grueling moments of labor. A sharp, pain scream echoes out of the hospital building and into the moonlit sky. Moments later, the room is filled with a new sound as the doctor holds up the crying newborn baby. Jian Xi looks up with exhausted, tear-filled eyes, whispering a desperate plea to finally see her child. Her strength fades and her vision blurs as she reaches out a trembling hand, watching the doctors carry her baby away into the shadows. The screen fades into a dark, textured void as the narrative shifts away from the clinic's chaos. On a rooftop under the cover of night, a medical team delivers the grim news to the young master that the delivery was a success. Lin Feng stands inside the helicopter, his face a cold mask of total indifference toward the situation. He looks down at the innocent newborn, now a mere pawn in a much larger, more dangerous game. Without a hint of fatherly warmth, he closes his eyes to shut out any lingering traces of hesitation. "Let's go," he commands, his voice is sharp and heartless as a blade. The aircraft lifts off into the night sky, carrying the child away from his mother. Suddenly, the sound of heavy boots thunders across the concrete as reinforcements finally arrive on the scene. The officers charge forward with weapons drawn, screaming for the pilot to stand down immediately. They realize with horror that they are seconds too late to intercept the high-speed extraction. High above, a masked operative aims a heavy-duty launcher directly at the pursuing unit. The helicopter tilts as it begins its final ascent, leaving the law far behind in the dust. A high-caliber projectile is fired, lighting up the darkness with a lethal, blinding glow. The officers stare in disbelief at the sheer scale of the firepower being unleashed against them. One guard realizes that for a syndicate this powerful, the legal system is nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Panic sets in as the men dive for cover, desperate to escape the incoming blast. A massive explosion erupts, swallowing the entire rooftop in a thick, suffocating cloud of smoke. The helicopter vanishes into the horizon, leaving the defeated team coughing in the ruins of their failed mission. Meanwhile, in a sterile hospital room, Xiao Ning sits in a tense, exhausted silence. Jian Xi slowly opens her eyes, the bright lights of the ward stinging her hazy vision. She looks to her side and weakly calls out to her only remaining ally. Xiao Ning can barely look her in the eye as he delivers the crushing update that the enemy has escaped. His voice trembles as he reveals the ultimate betrayal. They have taken her newborn child with them. The news hits Jian Xi like a physical blow, her eyes widening in sheer, paralyzing shock. A heavy silence fills the room as she tries to process the nightmare she has just woken up to. She hangs her head in despair, wondering if Lin Feng truly chose his father's dark legacy over her. A single, bitter tear falls onto her hand, marking the moment her hope finally shatters. She apologizes through her sobs, blaming her own wishful thinking for the chaos that has unfolded. Xiao Ning reaches out, offering a steady shoulder for her to lean on during her darkest hour. He holds her with professional care, acting as the only shield between her and total emotional collapse. Jian Xi breaks down completely, her grief pouring out as she realizes her baby is truly gone. Xiao Ning grits his teeth, frustrated that all the files he submitted weren't enough to stop this tragedy. He looks away with a grim focus, already planning how to track the secret contact in City H. Xiao Ning reveals a potential lead that could break the case wide open. A woman named Bai Huixiang. Jian Yi stares back with sudden intensity, questioning what fate awaits this mysterious contact once she is located. Xiao Ning pulls her close in a gesture of protective support, explaining that the woman will either face punishment or receive full protection based on her willingness to cooperate. A flicker of genuine concern crosses Jian Yi's face as she asks if this woman is currently in any immediate danger. Xiao Ning confirms her fears with a grim expression, noting that the woman might not even realize she is already being hunted. Far from the hospital, a violent thunderstorm begins to brew over a dark, secluded area. Heavy rain lashes down against the pavement, forming deep ripples in the cold puddles. Bai Huixiang walks through the downpour, reflecting on her history of living a perfectly average and unremarkable life. She tilts her head back toward the gray sky, admitting that deep down, she always craved a spark of something special to break the monotony. Her mind drifts back to the man who changed everything, a memory of Lin Feng's sharp features filling her thoughts. She closes her eyes and sighs, acknowledging that her fascination with Mr. Lin was a dangerous enchantment she couldn't escape. Standing alone under her blue umbrella, she realizes her choices were driven by a desperate need to rebel against her own predictable nature. She reaches her hand out into the cold rain, finally seeing the harsh reality of her situation with total clarity. With a heavy heart, she decides it is finally time to wake up from her fantasies and face the world. Suddenly, a voice from the shadows pierces the sound of the rain, asking if she knows a man named Lin Feng. She freezes as a hooded figure looms directly behind her, his presence radiating an immediate and lethal threat. Trying to maintain her composure, she questions the stranger, wondering if her connections even matter at this point. The man reveals a handgun with a chilling smirk, satisfied that her panicked reaction has already confirmed her identity. Terror washes over her as the gravity of the situation sinks in. This is no chance encounter, but a calculated hit. The assassin stalks forward while mocking her background, keeping his weapon trained directly on his target. Her legs tremble and give way, her boots splashing into the freezing rainwater as she loses her footing. The blue umbrella slips from her grasp and hits the ground with a dull patter, leaving her completely exposed. Falling to her knees, she desperately pleads for her life and promises to remain silent if he just lets her walk away. The killer remains completely unmoved, coldly preparing to deliver a final line before completing his professional assignment. She looks up one last time, her eyes wide with shock and the sudden realization of her impending end. A deafening gunshot rings out through the trees, the sound of the banj echoing through the rainy night. Her hand falls limp into the wet stone, her life force fading as the rain continues to pour over her. The hooded man turns and walks away into the darkness, leaving a crimson trail to be washed away by the storm. As her vision blurs, her final conscious thought is a haunting question of why she ever allowed herself to be drawn to such a dangerous individual. Under the harsh glow of the hospital exterior, the devastating news of the witness's demise is finally delivered. Xiao Ning breaks the silence by the bedside, explaining that the assassin silenced their lead before help could arrive. Jian Ye looks down in grief, her heart heavy as she asks for one final chance to see the woman who held the key to her child's location. In a quiet hall filled with a sea of blue roses, Bai Huixiang rests in her final, tragic piece. Jian Yi stands before the casket, reflecting on their bitter rivalry and the unexpected sympathy she feels for a fellow victim. She realizes with a hardened gaze that the man they both loved has a cruel way of repaying repaying those closest to him. With a steady hand, she places a single blue rose into the casket as a silent, final farewell. Standing amongst the shadows of the mourners, Jian Xi makes a solemn vow to take revenge for the life that was stolen. Later, Xiaoning presents a crucial piece of evidence, a specialized bullet casing recovered from the crime scene. He shows the metallic shell to Jian Xi, hoping she might recognize the unique markings left behind by the shooter. The camera zooms in on the bullet, revealing an intricate floral engraving etched directly into the metal. Jian Xi is puzzled by the artistic detail, questioning why a professional killer would leave such a distinct signature. She notes that the perpetrators are acting with extreme arrogance, clearly believing they are untouchable in their overseas territory. Xiaoning warns that the enemy's influence is vast, having successfully infiltrated the local police to cover their tracks. With no other leads remaining, Jian Xi determines that the only path forward is to travel to Country I and find the source herself. The scene transitions as the seasons change and 4 long, grueling years pass in the search for justice. At the bustling international airport, the roar of jet engines marks the beginning of a high-stakes infiltration. A pair of sharp professional heels strike the pavement as a seasoned traveler makes her calculated arrival. Now more experienced and determined operative, Jian Xi steps into the light with a mission-first mindset. She checks in via her earpiece, calmly assuring her team that she will maintain a low profile and stay safe. Looking around the busy terminal, she is momentarily struck by the weight of the memories tied to this location. She recalls this airport as the place where she last saw her parents and first encountered the man who changed her life. Adjusting her sunglasses, she masks her emotions and focuses entirely on the technical aspects of her surroundings. With her target firmly in mind, she declares that she won't stop until her child is safely back in her arms. Night falls over the city as the neon sign of a prestigious lounge flickers to life, signaling the start of the night's operations. Inside, the atmosphere is electric, filled with influential figures and the quiet pulse of the underground world. A host presents his private collection of wine to a guest who commands the room with a cold and detached presence. The dark-haired man leans back in the shadows, showing absolutely no interest in the trivialities of the club's entertainment. The host laughs off a recent failure among his subordinates, attempting to maintain a professional and lighthearted rapport. Swirling a glass of red wine, the guest coldly dismisses anyone who proves themselves to be a failure in the field. They discuss the shifting power dynamics of the Clown Alliance, acknowledging the respect required to operate in this city. On the floor below, the crowd moves to the music, oblivious to the high-level strategy being discussed in the private booths. The host urges his companion to relax and take advantage of the many amenities the club has to offer. With a piercing and unsatisfied gaze, the man replies that the only thing he truly desires cannot be found in a place like this. Suddenly, a confident and purposeful step echoes at the entrance of the VIP lounge, signaling a new arrival. Jian Xi lowers her shades, her eyes sharp and focused as she prepares to execute the next phase of her plan. Jian Xi glides through the crowded lounge, her every step radiating an aura of dangerous elegance. Nearby, a pair of observers freeze in their tracks, stunned by the operative's sudden appearance. One of the men urgently alerts his superior, pointing toward the mysterious woman at the bar. The young master narrows his eyes, adjusting his communication device to focus on the target. He coldly instructs his subordinate to initiate a remote sweep and eavesdrop on her conversation. Unfazed by the eyes on her, Jian Xi takes a seat and requests a simple glass of ice water. A well-dressed stranger approaches, attempting to initiate a conversation by offering her a drink. Jian Xi offers a subtle, calculated smile as she accepts the social engagement. She maintains her professional cover, engaging in a polite toast with the persistent local. The man's gaze drops to her hand, noticing the ring she wears as part of her persona. He curiously inquires if the jewelry signifies that she is currently married. Jian Xi looks down at her glass, her expression hardening as she delivers a blunt denial. From across the room, the young master continues to monitor every word through his headset. He remains stoic, analyzing the operative's behavior for any sign of her true intent. The stranger assumes the ring is merely a tool to deflect unwanted attention from others. Jian Xi stares into the swirling ice, carefully weighing her next scripted response. She claims with a chilling smirk that the man who gave it to her is dead to her after a betrayal. The young master listens with a look of pure annoyance at the melodramatic cover story. She doubles down on the lie, identifying herself as a widow to further intrigue her mark. The man at the bar is visibly taken aback by the weight of her fabricated history. A skeptical smirk plays across the young master's lips as he listens to the blatant deception. The social interaction continues under the watchful eyes of multiple hidden observers. The subordinate asks if they should move in, but his leader remains focused on the surveillance. He dismisses the woman's story as a low-level tactic that only a fool would believe. Jian Xi keeps up the charade, knowing exactly how to play the role of the lonely traveler. She takes a slow sip of her water, her mind already moving 3 steps ahead of the room. In a brief memory, a handler warns her about the extreme risks of this infiltration. She argues that staying hidden is no longer an option if they want results. Jian Xi clenches her fist, determined to force her enemies out into the light. Back in reality, she feels the weight of the mission pressing down on her shoulders. She quickly checks her gear, ensuring she is ready to transition to the next phase. Leaving the lounge behind, she disappears into the shadows of the dark city streets. A local predator watches her from the darkness, sensing an opportunity to strike. Jian Xi walks through the desolate alleyway, appearing vulnerable to lure out a lead. She realizes the high-level targets are more cautious than she initially anticipated. A hand suddenly reaches out from the gloom, attempting to block her path. A thuggish man corners her, questioning why a woman like her is out alone at night. He looms over the operative, unaware he has just walked into a professional trap. A shady thug approaches Jian Xi with a greasy grin, offering to walk her home under the guise of safety. Maintaining her composure, she politely rejects the advance while the man looms over her shoulder. The brute refuses to take no for an answer, posturing with open arms as if he's doing her a favor. As he reaches out to grab her, Jian Yi's expression shifts into a mask of cold calculation. In a blur of movement, she catches his wrist in a vice-like grip before he can even blink. Before the man can process the resistance, she leverages his own weight against him in a masterful martial arts maneuver. With a thunderous impact, she slams the thug directly into the stone pavement. His subordinates watch from the sidelines, their faces twisted in absolute shock at the sudden display of force. One lackey snaps out of his daze and charges forward with a metal bat, shouting insults. Jian Xi effortlessly dances around the swing, making the heavy weapon look slow and clumsy. Her keen eyes spot a distinctive tattoo on the attacker's arm, confirming his ties to her target. A satisfied smile crosses her face as she realizes her bait has successfully lured out the right prey. Her gaze narrows with intense focus, signaling that the real interrogation is about to begin. The fallen leader looks up in sheer terror, finally realizing he has cornered a predator. She dominates the scene, pinning the man down with effortless grace and authority. Jian Xi leans in close, her voice low and dangerous as she prepares to extract information. Trembling under her pressure, the thug groans out a desperate question about what she actually wants. She demands the truth regarding Lin Feng and his connection to the underground organization. Desperate to intervene, another thug fumbles with a canister of defense spray. He sprays wildly into the air, but his terrible aim misses Jian Xi completely. The leader screams in agony as the chemical mist hits him square in the face instead. Both criminals collapse into a pathetic heap, blinded by their own teammates' incompetence. The clumsy lackey stands frozen, staring at his tools while realizing he's just sabotaged his own boss. Panicked and uncoordinated, the remaining thugs try to launch one last desperate assault. Jian Xi casually steps over the wreckage of her enemies, her movements fluid and precise. She stands tall amidst the chaos, appearing completely unbothered by the brief scuffle. The lead thug cowers on the ground, frantically pleading that he is just a common hooligan, with no real knowledge. She ignores the excuses and pointedly asks for the secret to joining the Clown Alliance. The man blinks in confusion, unable to process why this dangerous operative is interested in their ranks. Jian Xi locks her eyes onto his, carefully shifting her psychological strategy. She asks him again, softening her tone to lower his defensive barriers. She radiates a sudden, disarming warmth, using her charisma to manipulate the situation to her advantage. The thug is instantly mesmerized, his face flushing as he falls for her calculated performance. Completely captivated by her act, he begins to divulge the location of the secret hideout. From the shadows, the young master observes the entire interaction, his suspicions about the widow deepening. The young master watches from the shadows, knowing the path she's choosing leads straight into a lion's den. Back in the alley, the defeated thug leader trembles, desperately pleading with Jian Xi to rethink her dangerous mission. She offers a cold, deceptive smile, offering a polite word of thanks for the intel she's just squeezed out of him. The thug is left utterly dazed, his face flushing red as he falls victim to her calculated charm. His subordinate frantically shakes him back to reality, pointing out that their mysterious interrogator has already vanished. As she moves through the night, Jian Xi analyzes the local power structure, knowing only the Clown Alliance can challenge Dios. Her sharp ears pick up a faint, metallic click against the pavement behind her. She whips around instantly, her instincts screaming that she's no longer alone in the dark. Before she can react, a tranquilizer dart is fired with professional accuracy from the gloom. A sharp sting hits her neck, and her vision begins to blur as the sedative takes hold. Through a haze of failing consciousness, she stares at the silhouette of a man dressed in a dark suit. Her strength fails completely, and she collapses onto the cold cobblestones as her assailant looms over her. The mysterious figure gathers her limp form into his arms, moving with a calm, practiced efficiency. Hours tick by on an elegant wall clock, marking the time she's been out of commission. Jian Yi's eyes snap open, her golden gaze immediately scanning for any sign of her surroundings. She finds herself tucked into a massive, opulent bed that looks more like a palace than a prison. She bolts upright, her mind racing to piece together how she ended up in such a high-end location. The operative notes that her tactical gear has been swapped for a clean white shirt while she was unconscious. The reality of her situation becomes clear when she feels the heavy weight of a metal cuff locking her wrist to the headboard. Not missing a beat, she reaches into her hair to retrieve a hidden pin she kept for just just such an emergency. With the steady hands of a master operative, she expertly manipulates the lock until the shackle pops open. Free from the bed, she stands up and adjusts her clothes, preparing for an immediate extraction. She checks the windows first, but they are reinforced with thick, unbreakable glass meant to keep her inside. Peering through the door's gap, she sees a pair of professional guards standing watch, blocking her only exit. Trapped and frustrated, she realizes the security in this place is far more sophisticated than she expected. Suddenly, the sound of a running shower echoes through the room, alerting her to someone's presence nearby. Her expression hardens as she focuses on the bathroom door, realizing her captor is currently distracted. She grabs a heavy ceramic vase, gripping it tightly as an improvised weapon for her next move. Positioning herself for an ambush, she prepares to take the individual hostage the moment they step out. She pauses mid-motion as a chillingly familiar voice drifts out from behind the steam. Weapon still raised, she glares at the man who emerges, her eyes full of defiance and suspicion. The young master stares back with an unreadable gaze, his calm demeanor hiding the true reason for this abduction. Explosive tremors rock the foundation of the massive skyscraper. The ceiling overhead shakes violently as the chandelier shatters from the impact above. A guest awakens in his luxury suite, jolted upright by the sudden chaos. He lifts his sleep mask, glaring at the ceiling in pure frustration. The man screams at the upstairs neighbors to seize their loud renovations immediately. Downstairs, the manager notes a growing list of serious customer complaints. Guards propose moving the disgruntled guest to another room to settle the dispute. Suddenly, the young master bursts through the door to silence the staff's chatter. The heavy doors fly open with a violent, echoing crash. He stands there in his robe, looking completely unfazed by the surrounding noise. The manager frantically offers to call the police or medical assistance. He coldly brushes off the concern, demanding they stay out of his private affairs. The staff bows deeply as the young master retreats back into his quarters. A final impact echoes through the hallway as the entrance is sealed shut. The manager stands frozen, baffled by the bizarre interaction he just witnessed. A veteran aide steps in, claiming this is just a unique communication style between the couple. He assures the manager that the noise complaints are no longer a concern. Security guards forcibly remove the complaining guest from the presidential suite. The man is unceremoniously tossed into the hallway like common trash. He lands safely on a pile of soft cushions, his protests finally silenced. The aide reveals the ultimate solution. They simply purchase the entire hotel. He hands over a gold VIP card to secure the manager's early retirement fund. A nervous guard peeks into the room to check on the ongoing situation. A flying object forces the intruder to retreat from the room immediately. The door slams shut once more, locking the pair inside their private battlefield. Back on the bed, the young master stares up with a mocking, confident smile. Jian Xi hesitates, her tactical focus wavering under his intense gaze. He suddenly reaches out, firmly seizing her wrist to halt her movement. He questions her authority, refusing to provide the information she seeks. Jian Xi freezes in place, stunned by his sudden shift in dominance. The young master looms over Jian Xi, mockingly questioning the widow, alias she used at the bar. Jian Xi stares back with cold indifference, dismissing her past marriage as a total sham. She reaches upward, her hand moving toward his face as she questions his true identity. Gently touching his cheek, she addresses him formally while searching for the truth. A close-up reveals her sharp, determined gaze as she analyzes her captor. He leans down, maintaining an intense but professional proximity during their standoff. Suddenly, the door swings open to reveal an unexpected witness. The butler's eye reflects his sheer shock at the sight of the two together. He retreats instantly, apologizing for the poorly timed interruption. Jian Xi remains unfazed, asserting that she still has many questions that require answers. The young master looks away, acknowledging the stark shift in her personality. She retorts that betrayal and the loss of her parents forced her to change. He reacts with visible surprise at the news of the girl's tragic fate. The heavy doors to the suite swing open, signaling the end of a tense and private confrontation. Young master steps into the hallway, met by a line of bowing staff ready for his next command. The butler looks on with a knowing smirk, surprised that the young master finished his business so quickly. Young master pauses, his expression clouding with confusion at the butler's strange implications. The butler quickly backpedals with an awkward laugh, realizing he may have misread the situation entirely. He tries to smooth things over by suggesting that harsh words are often just a mask for deeper feelings. Dismissing the nonsense, the young master orders his men to find a secure location to detain Jian Xi away from his father's eyes. Frustration mounts as he realizes the current madam won't be easy to control, leading the butler to suggest calling in a specialist. The young master's gaze sharpens as he considers the identity of the person the butler is referring to. Suddenly, a swift kick sends a guard reeling, proving that capturing this target won't be easy. Jian Xi ties back her hair with cold determination, mocking the amateurs sent to restrain her. High above a public square, white pigeons take flight against a clear blue sky. Safely away from her captors, Jian Xi reports in over the phone, admitting she had to make a hasty escape from Lin Feng. She bears the brunt of a lecture regarding her professional conduct and the high stakes of their mission. Standing alone in the park, she reflects on the overwhelming complexity of dealing with a high-level mafia organization. On the cobblestones below, the local birds peck at scattered crumbs, oblivious to her inner turmoil. Jian Xi stares blankly ahead, trying to fathom why he would choose to inherit the DOS organization now after refusing it for so long. She pulls her knees to her chest, the weight of her confusion making her feel more isolated than ever. Regret starts to sink in as she realizes that losing her cool and punching him might have been a tactical error. Her anger flares up again at the memory of him calling her dear, a title she finds absolutely revolting. The peaceful atmosphere is broken by a young girl running through the pigeons with a bright smile. Before Jian Xi can react, the child lunges forward and wraps her in a sudden, tight embrace. Jian Xi looks down in shock, wondering why this little stranger is clinging to her like a long-lost parent. The girl looks up with wide, innocent eyes, mesmerized by the woman standing before her. Jian Xi is left speechless, caught off guard by the pure intensity of the child's gaze. The little girl holds onto her hands, looking up with an expression of pure admiration. She asks a question that stops Jian Yi's heart, wondering if she can be her mother. Her actual caretakers arrive on the scene, watching the strange interaction with polite amusement. While the girl remains convinced of her choice, Jian Xi can only stand there in a state of complete and utter disbelief. The young girl playfully approaches strangers, asking the two women for a kiss. Jian Xi watches from the side, baffled by the child's habit of calling every pretty woman her mother. Suddenly, a familiar elderly man rushes forward to collect the wandering girl. Jian Xi observes the interaction closely, her suspicion beginning to mount. She instantly recognizes the newcomer as Uncle Li, a key figure from her past. Dread sinks in as she realizes his presence confirms the old master is nearby. A luxury sedan waits at the curb while Uncle Li secures the child. The car door swings open, revealing a high-ranking passenger within the shadows. A weathered hand grips a formal cane, signaling the arrival of authority. The old master steps onto the pavement with a cold, commanding presence. He scans the area with a stern gaze, noting the group's exact location. Jian Xi stands her ground, forced to face the man who haunts her history. Uncle Li attempts to move the master along to his scheduled meeting to avoid a scene. Jian Xi listens intently as the master questions why the child was brought there. Her mind flashes back to a tense office confrontation where she demanded the truth. In the memory, she lashes out, accusing him of seeing others as subhuman. He remains unmoved, dismissing her obsession with the truth of the past. Jian Xi glares back, refusing to leave without a direct confession. He coldly admits that her parents' lives ended right before his eyes. He justifies the act, stating that loyalty is rewarded while betrayal earns death. The weight of his cruelty leaves Jian Xi momentarily speechless and horrified. She stands armed in the office, ready to end the cycle of violence. The old master stares down the barrel, mocking her desperate desire for revenge. Jian Xi hesitates, the weight of her next move pressing down on her soul. She recalls a simpler time, a professional family portrait session that now feels like a lifetime ago. The agonizing memory of her parents' absence fuels a bitterness that no one else can truly understand. A single tear threatens to fall as she prepares to confront the man who shattered her world. Her voice trembles with rage as she demands to know why such a monster is the father of the man she knows. The old master offers nothing but a cold, mocking smirk in response to her anguish. He stands firm, callously declaring that her parents' union was a mistake that should never have happened. The tension reaches a breaking point as the lethal reality of their confrontation sinks in. Suddenly, the deadly standoff is shattered when a young girl's voice rings out, calling for her grandfather. The ruthless patriarch instantly transforms, catching the child in a doting embrace. Jian Xi is forced to quickly conceal her weapon, stunned by this jarring display of affection. He gazes at the girl with genuine warmth, questioning why she isn't attending her scheduled classes. The child points an accusing finger at Uncle Li, identifying him as the one who brought her there. Caught in the crossfire of the old master's gaze, Uncle Li breaks into a nervous sweat while trying to usher the girl away. The little girl stubbornly resists, throwing a fit because she refuses to leave without her mother. The old master's expression immediately hardens into one of intense suspicion at the mention of the word. Without hesitation, the girl points back toward the crowd to reveal exactly who she's talking about. Uncle Li's composure completely evaporates as he reels from the sheer shock of the girl's claim. Nearby civilians recognize the patriarch as the famous Mr. Lin, whispering in awe of his presence. The atmosphere shifts into a media frenzy as photographers rush to capture the famous entrepreneur in action. An excited bystander swoons over his charisma, completely blind to the darkness he hides. Security quickly moves in to maintain order and keep the overzealous fans at a professional distance. Keeping a firm grip on the child, the old master warns her that wandering off is far too dangerous. The girl hugs him tight, finding safety in the arms of the man who commands so much fear. Their black sedan roars to life and speeds away, leaving the chaos of the city square behind. Jian Xi watches the exhaust trail, realizing that to the public, he is nothing more than a titan of industry. Beside her, a cold voice reminds her that in the eyes of the world, she is playing the exact same game. The atmosphere thickens behind the heavy office door. A firm hand suddenly grips a sleeve to halt any escape. Jian Xi sits slumped in her chair, overwhelmed by the day's chaos. The officer slams his hand onto her chair, demanding answers. He towers over her, berating her for disregarding direct orders. Jian Xi looks away, struggling to find a valid excuse for her recklessness. His gaze remains icy and unforgiving as he analyzes her failure. She lowers her head in shame shame while he expresses his fury over her meeting the target. Only a single lamp illuminates the cold, dark office space. The distance between them highlights the professional rift her actions created. He flips open a mission dossier with sharp, clinical precision. While he reviews the report, she insists the encounter was a complete accident. Her eyes betray a mix of lingering trauma and stubborn resolve. He mentally deducts points for her inability to stay calm under pressure. She tries to defend her actions as the critique continues. The mission is officially labeled a failure due to her emotional outburst. A soft smile touches her lips as she remembers seeing the little girl. She marvels at how much the child has grown in her absence. He orders her to abandon the pursuit immediately for her own safety. Shocked and defensive, she stands to face his harsh ultimatum. He walks away, reminding her that emotions have no place in this line of work. Jian Xi stares after him, her heart heavy with the weight of his words. Officer Xiao breaks the tension by stepping into the room. He sets a bag of cold drinks down on the desk to lighten the mood. The newcomer walks between the two, sensing the thick animosity. He sighs, exhausted by the constant bickering of his colleagues. He offers a soda to the stern officer as a peace offering. Xiao argues that despite her mistakes, she remains their most capable operative. The officer remains silent, staring intently at the offered drink. Xiao turns to the newbie with a reassuring smile, downplaying the crisis. He leans in, revealing a secret strategy to get her inside the Lin household. Officer Xiao drops a bombshell, revealing a secret opportunity for Jian Xi to infiltrate the Lin family as an undercover agent. He explains that the commander is testing her focus, suspecting her emotions might compromise the mission. Jian Xi bows her head in sincere regret, offering a formal apology for earlier lapse in judgment. Desperate to redeem herself, she clutches his sleeve and begs for one final chance to prove her worth. Xiao gazes down at her with a heavy expression, knowing the danger she's about to face alone. She looks up at him with a gaze full of unwavering resolve, ready to accept whatever comes next. Xiao warns her that Country Y is a den of snakes, and that he won't be there to shield her once she enters. Jian Xi offers a determined smile, promising to stay sharp and follow every instruction to the letter. The mission target is the sprawling Lin estate, a fortress-like mansion tucked away in the suburbs. Outside the gates, the household staff begins the rigorous process of screening potential new hires. Disguised with a new look, Jian Xi strides through the iron gates to join the sea of applicants. She adjusts her bag, mentally preparing to play the role of a humble servant to get close to the target. The competition is fierce, as women scramble frantically to secure a spot in the prestigious household. Candidates push and shove, desperate to reach the front of the line before the doors close. Standing amidst the massive crowd, Jian Xi is stunned by the sheer number of people vying for the same position. As night falls, the mansion glows under the moonlight, masking the high-stakes selection happening within. Inside the opulent hall, the final group of candidates waits under the glimmering light of a massive chandelier. The young heiress Yu Liang sits like a tiny queen, while the butler asks her to choose her new caretaker. With a cold stare, the child dismisses the room, bluntly stating she has no interest in ugly women. Jian Xi can hardly believe the audacity of the child, stunned by her sharp and spoiled attitude. Yu Liang makes a bold demand, insisting her caretaker must be as beautiful as her own mother. Jian Xi watches the girl closely, realizing this mission is going to be far more complicated than she imagined. The butler sighs, gently suggesting that the young lady might need to lower her impossible standards. Refusing to budge, the girl declares she will find someone who bears a resemblance to her mother's image. She hops down from her velvet throne to personally inspect the remaining women standing in line. The child walks toward a large object veiled in red, claiming she has the perfect reference for her search. Panic sets in for Jian Xi as she wonders if the child is holding a photo that could blow her cover. She stares at the girl, terrified that her prosthetic disguise will lead to an immediate disqualification. A risky thought crosses her mind. She wonders if she should reveal her true face to the child in secret to win her over. She tightens her grip, reminding herself that failure isn't an option when her family's justice is on the line. With a dramatic flourish, the young girl pulls back the curtain to reveal the face she expects everyone to match. A small hand firmly grasps the velvet curtain, ready for the big reveal. Yu Liang throws back the fabric with a flourish, eager to show off her masterpiece. Instead of a high-end portrait, a crude, stick figure drawing of a woman stares back from the ornate frame. The candidates are frozen in place, their faces a mix of pure shock and total disbelief. The heiress beams with pride, gesturing toward the scribble as if it were a priceless relic. Desperate to please, the sycophants immediately burst into fake applause and over-the-top praise. One woman offers an enthusiastic thumbs up, shamelessly playing along with the charade. Another candidate holds up a genius sign, taking the flattery to a ridiculous level. The group erupts into cheers, chanting Picasso to stroke the young girl's ego. Jian Xi can't maintain her poker face any longer and lets out a genuine chuckle at the absurdity. The other applicants glare at her, convinced she has just sabotaged her own chances. Jian Xi remains calm and composed, meeting their judgmental stares with a confident smile. She reasons that a bit of honesty shouldn't hurt her mission to infiltrate the estate. One of the women screams at her in a rage, calling her latter an insult to the young miss. Jian Xi simply explains that she found the artwork adorable and interesting, not mocking. She turns the tables on them, questioning why they are so desperate to silence her. The butler wipes his brow, realizing that her straightforward logic is actually hard to argue with. He turns back to the throne to get a final verdict from the young mistress. To everyone's surprise, The demanding heiress has already drifted off into a peaceful sleep. The butler is left completely flabbergasted by the sudden turn of events. Jian Xi watches the scene, her expression softening for a brief moment. Seeing an opportunity to get closer to the inner sanctum, she offers to carry the girl to her room. Suddenly, a mysterious woman in a red dress steps forward, asserting her dominance over the situation. The stranger moves with an air of cold elegance that immediately catches Jian Yi's attention. As she turns her head, the woman's piercing gaze sends a chill down Jian Yi's spine. Jian Yi's heart stops as she stares into a face that looks disturbingly familiar. The woman offers a faint, mysterious smile that hints at hidden secrets. She carefully lifts the sleeping girl into her arms with a practiced, professional touch. Jian Yi stands paralyzed, realizing that this woman is a literal mirror image of herself. The butler eyes the newcomer with curiosity, asking for her identity as she holds the sleeping heiress. Without a moment's hesitation, he grants her the position of private carer, welcoming her into the inner circle. The other candidates erupt in fury, screaming about the blatant unfairness of someone being hired without an interview. The protest is cut short by the cold click of a firearm as a guard draws his weapon on the crowd. Jian Yi watches in stunned silence, realizing just how dangerous this estate truly is. The butler dismisses their complaints with a smirk, making it clear that the most prestigious role is officially taken. Jian Yi realizes her window is closing, with only grueling labor roles left on the table. The remaining women are insulted by the scraps they're being offered, feeling the sting of the butler's arrogance. Knowing she can't leave empty-handed, Jian Yi raises her hand to accept the lowly's position. The butler instructs her to follow him immediately to retrieve her official work attire. Under the cover of night, the massive Lin estate looms like a fortress of secrets. Jian Yi stares at her reflection, now dressed in the standard uniform required for all household staff. Her mind races with suspicion, wondering if the mysterious woman in red intends to harm the child. She hardens her gaze, knowing she must maintain her cover at all costs to uncover the truth. With practiced precision, she tightens the bow on her collar to complete the look. She examines the elaborate outfit in the mirror, questioning why the staff uniforms are so strangely specific. A look of pure disgust crosses her face as she curses the scum master's questionable tastes. Miles away in his office, the young master is suddenly interrupted by a violent sneeze. The butler enters the room with a tray, concerned that the master might be coming down with a cold. He sets the tea down, jokingly suggesting that perhaps someone is bad-mouthing the master behind his back. The young master responds with a chilling glare that could freeze the air in the room. The butler instantly recoils, breaking into a nervous sweat as he realizes he overstepped. Shifting back to business, the master demands a status report on the day's hiring results. The butler beams with excitement, reporting that the madam has finally arrived to watch over the young miss. The master turns away, ordering the butler to monitor the situation without interfering with their movements. When asked if he wants to see the new staff for himself, the master remains distant. He stares out into the darkness, coldly refusing to visit the newcomers. Jian Yi follows a senior maid through the endless, golden corridors of the mansion. She recalls her mission briefing, knowing this estate's security is too tight for even the best hackers to breach. The head maid stops her with a stern warning, telling Jian Yi to keep her head down and avoid the young master. Jian Yi blinks in surprise at the sudden lecture on workplace boundaries. She quickly flashes a bright, innocent smile to disarm the older woman's suspicions. Internally, she fumes, hoping that the scum master doesn't get in the way of her investigation. Once again, the young master is struck by another sneeze, completely unaware he's the target of Jian Yi's ire. The head maid leads Jian Yi through the quiet halls of the estate. Sparrow interrupts their walk, eagerly asking about the afternoon menu. The supervisor warns Sparrow to stop gaming in the young master's study. Sparrow's eyes lock onto Jian Yi, questioning her presence. He leans in close, finding her features strangely recognizable. Jian Yi remains silent as he tries to recall their meeting. The head maid quickly intervenes to stop Sparrow's prying. Sparrow recoils in shock, frustrated by the complex situation. He realizes Jian Yi is a perfect match for the target photo. Sparrow grows suspicious of his boss's shifting motives regarding the lookalike. Jian Yi keeps her guard up despite the scrutiny. She enters the restricted study and spots the workstation. Sparrow catches her lingering and demands an explanation. He leads her out, insisting they exit the room immediately. Sparrow locks the heavy door to keep the room secure. Jian Yi notes the proximity of Lin Feng's private quarters. She bows respectfully as the young master passes by. Lin Feng maintains his cold distance, unaware of her true intent. Under the cover of night, a figure leaps onto the balcony ledge. Jian Yi lands silently, confirming the window is an entry point. She spots movement through the glass and pauses. Inside, the woman in red is busy at a computer. The doppelganger grins while scanning through stolen data. A progress bar on the monitor tracks the illicit file transfer. Jian Yi looms behind her, ready to end the deception. A hand slices through the air with lethal precision. Jian Yi lunges from the shadows, seizing the intruder before she can react. The doppelganger lashes out with a high-velocity kick, forcing Jian Yi to drop low to avoid the blow. Jian Yi demands to know the woman's true purpose for infiltrating the Lin estate. The woman in red wears a mocking smirk, throwing the question right back at her double. Jian Yi glares at the imposter with cold, calculating intensity. She charges forward, refusing to let this master of disguise manipulate the situation. The intruder effortlessly evades the strike, realizing she has finally found the genuine article. Jian Xi is taken aback by the ease of the woman's admission. The woman points a finger mockingly, claiming she's been waiting specifically for this encounter. She leans in close, whispering a chilling reminder that child would always draw Jian Xi out. The mysterious woman casts one last look over her shoulder before making her move. A hand darts toward the back of the computer to secure a stolen drive. Jian Xi reaches out desperately to intercept the hardware before it disappears. The intruder spins away, heading straight for the open balcony. In a flash of professional skill, the woman in red rappels down the side of the building and into the night. Jian Xi successfully retrieves the USB drive, securing the data for herself. She stands alone in the dark, troubled by the woman's cryptic threats of revenge. Suddenly, the door swings open as a bright light floods the study. Jian Xi ducks behind the desk, her mind racing to connect the intruder to the estate's master. She questions if this double was actually a discarded part of Lin Feng's past. Lin Feng steps into the room, accompanied by a guard scouring the area with a flashlight. Jian Xi watches from her hiding spot, recognizing the man who holds the keys to her mission. The curtains flutter in the breeze coming through the unsecured window. Lin Feng observes the draft, noting that someone left the study exposed. A leather shoe steps firmly onto the carpet, signaling the master's arrival. Lin Feng surveys the dimly lit study, unaware of the spy crouching just out of sight. Jian Xi presses herself against the furniture, praying her breathing doesn't give her away. Lin Feng stands inches away from her hiding spot, his presence looming over the hidden operative. Jian Xi remains perfectly still, her focus entirely on staying undetected. The heavy door finally seals shut, leaving the room in a thick, tense silence. Jian Xi slides down against the desk, exhaling a massive breath of relief as the danger passes. The morning sun casts a deceptive glow over the Grand Lin estate, masking the high-stakes espionage unfolding within its walls. Jian Xi maintains her composure, pushing a service cart through the library while keeping a sharp eye out for any wandering guards. Seizing a moment of privacy, she discreetly slides the critical data drive into a gap behind the books on the shelf. Mission accomplished for now, she continues her route, hoping her subtle handoff remains undetected by the household staff. However, a mysterious figure watches her from the shadows of the doorway, having tracked her every move since she entered the room. As soon as she's gone, a hand reaches into the shelf to retrieve the hidden device. It's Lin Feng, and he examines the drive with a cold, calculating gaze that suggests he was expecting this move all along. He remembers the strict orders he gave to his team, emphasizing that the target must be handled with extreme care during the extraction. With a confident gesture, he signals his approval, fully believing the situation is under his complete control. Back in the hallway, Jian Xi leans against the wall to catch her breath, the weight of the infiltration finally starting to take its toll. She pushes open the door to the next room, only to be greeted by a chaotic scene of books and papers scattered everywhere. She let out a weary sigh, realizing that her maid duties are far from over in this disorganized mess. And kneeling down, she begins the tedious process of tidying the floor, wondering what could have caused such a localized disaster. As she gathers the fallen volumes, a loose piece of paper slips out from a binding and flutters to the floor. It is a child's drawing, a simple sketch of a woman tenderly labeled Mama. Jian Xi stares at the image, a flicker of deep, personal recognition crossing her usually stoic features. Her hand trembles slightly as she grips the paper, the drawing clearly striking a sensitive chord within her. Sensing someone approaching, she quickly secures the drawing, knowing it could be a vital piece of the puzzle she's trying to solve. Suddenly, the cold press of a barrel against the back of her head brings her back to the present moment. A young girl stands behind her with a toy gun, demanding to know exactly who this new maid is and what she's doing there. The child's finger rests on the trigger, her expression a mix of youthful curiosity and suspicious defiance. She looks up at Jian Xi with wide eyes, asking if the operative truly remembers who she is. Jian Xi forces a strained, professional smile, trying to play along with the girl's game to prevent a scene. A sudden, sharp sound echoes through the estate, momentarily shattering the tense silence of the room. Hearing the commotion, the elderly butler rushes into the study, his face contorted with worry for the young Mrs. Safety. He stops dead in his tracks at the sight of Jian Xi covered in red liquid, the victim of the child's messy prank. Jian Xi closes her eyes and endures the indignity, her mind already racing to figure out how to clean up this mess without blowing her cover. Jian Xi looks down at the child, her eyes narrowed with a mix of confusion and mounting frustration. The girl snaps back with a bratty insult, calling Jian Xi an ugly hag, without a hint of remorse for her earlier prank. Suddenly, the estate staff bursts into the room, led by a stern man who demands to know who has the audacity to threaten the Lin family's young missy. Jian Xi tries to maintain her composure as she explains the child's dangerous behavior, but the staff is clearly more concerned with the girl's status. The young girl looks down at the mess she's created on the floor, seemingly relishing the chaos she has unleashed. She sticks her tongue out defiantly, claiming that everyone else loves her while labeling Jian Xi as bad for standing up to her. Jian Xi watches the child's behavior, realizing that if this girl isn't disciplined soon, she will grow into a hopelessly spoiled brat. The guards seize Jian Xi by the arms, questioning how they should handle the intruder who dared to cross their young mistress. Uncle Lee, the head butler, scoops the girl up and mockingly asks which torture method she would like to use on her captive. Jian Xi's face pales in sheer disbelief at the extreme and absurd threats coming from the estate's senior staff. The young girl beams with excitement, her eyes literally sparkling at the thought of the butler's cruel games. The atmosphere in the room shifts instantly as Lin Feng enters, his cold presence alone silencing the entire commotion. The girl's attitude changes in a heartbeat, looking toward Lin Feng and identifying him as her father. Sensing trouble, the girl quickly tries to hide her toy gun behind her back to avoid a lecture. Lin Feng stares down at her with a piercing, analytical gaze, demanding to know what trouble she has caused this time. The girl immediately puts on a victim act, lying through her teeth by claiming that Jian Xi was the one who hit her. She clings to the butler for protection, begging Uncle Li to save her from the mean woman. Lin Feng remains entirely unmoved by the theatrical display, his expression staying sharp and stern. Realizing the head of the house isn't buying the act, Uncle Li nervously backs away, admitting they can't shield the girl from her father's judgment. Lin Feng kneels down to his daughter's level, extending his hand and firmly ordering her to hand over the device. With a heavy pout and a look of total defeat, the young girl is forced to surrender her toy to her father. Lin Feng doesn't stop there, ordering Uncle Li to confiscate all her toys and confine her to her room for a week of mandatory study. The girl bursts into tears, wailing in protest as her world of play comes to a screeching halt. Jian Xi can't help but feel a small pang of sympathy, speaking up to suggest that Lin Feng might be being a bit too strict. Lin Feng shuts her down instantly, coldly reminding her that a mere maid has no say in how he handles his family. Stunned by his arrogance, Jian Xi can only glare back, finding the man's dismissive attitude completely infuriating. Without another word, Lin Feng orders the guards to escort Jian Xi away so she can finally get cleaned up. As she's led out, Jian Xi looks back at the sobbing girl, who is now crying out in heartbreak for the mother she misses. Night falls over the estate, where the warm glow of the windows masks the cold tension building inside. Jian Yi's mind races with fear, knowing that if Lin Feng truly believes her family is at fault, her parents' legacy will be destroyed forever. She steps out of the bath, the silence of the room broken only by the rhythmic drip of water, as she prepares to face the night. To her shock, Lin Feng is waiting right there in the room, glass in hand, coldly asking if she's finally finished. He maintains a stoic distance, offering a rare, formal apology for his daughter's earlier outbursts. He swirls the red liquid in his glass, his grip steady and calculated as he keeps his eyes fixed on his next move. Suddenly, he closes the distance, his sharp stride bringing him directly into her personal space. He looms over her, his voice a low threat, as he questions if a maid who can't even serve breakfast properly truly belongs in his house. Jian Xi refuses to flinch, looking him dead in the eye as she firmly declares her intention to stay. A heavy silence falls between them, their gazes locking in a silent battle of wills and hidden agendas. Without another word, he turns on his heel, his footsteps echoing a dismissal of the conversation. He heads for the exit, leaving her standing there as she quietly confirms her commitment to the mission. She remains rooted to the spot, her heart hammering against her ribs as she processes the narrow escape. Lin Feng pauses at the threshold, casting one final, unreadable glance toward the woman who refuses to be intimidated. Lin Feng pins Jian Xi against the wall to test her resolve. He demands to know her true motive for infiltrating the estate. Jian Xi meets his gaze without flinching, maintaining her cover. The master scrutinizes her reaction for any hint of betrayal. A discarded garment hits the floor during the high-stakes confrontation. Lin Feng's focus remains razor-sharp as he assesses the operative. He seizes her hand to assert dominance over the situation. Suddenly, the staff member enters, breaking the intense psychological deadlock. Jian Xi immediately tightens her wrap to remain professional. Both individuals distance themselves as the room's atmosphere shifts. Lin Feng turns his head, annoyed by the poorly timed interruption. The worker bows and offers a hasty, embarrassed apology. The door clicks shut, restoring privacy to the tense meeting. They stand in the quiet room, the power dynamic still unsettled. Lin Feng straightens his attire and issues a final, icy command. Lin Feng turns his back on the operative, delivering a final, icy warning that he won't be so lenient the next time they cross paths. Left alone to her thoughts, Jian Yi's gaze hardens as she calculates her next move to bridge the gap between her and the estate's secrets. The silence is shattered when a small child suddenly drops into view, hanging upside down from the curtains and bluntly questioning Jian Yi's choice of attire. Jian Yi recoils in genuine shock, her heart racing as she stares at the unexpected little intruder. The girl remains suspended in the air with her arms crossed, looking entirely unimpressed by the maid's startled reaction. Quickly regaining her professional composure, Jian Yi grips her equipment and demands to know how the child managed to sneak into the room. With the agility of a seasoned gymnast, the young girl begins to lower herself toward the floor. She swings down from the curtain pole with a flourish, landing perfectly on her feet with a confident smirk. The girl strikes a heroic pose, boasting that her grand entrance from above was nothing short of awesome. Jian Yi watches the child's dramatic display, wondering why the girl has decided to stop acting hostile and instead declare that the maid is awesome enough to scare her father away. Beaming with a mischievous energy, the child admits that Jian Yi is actually much cuter than her daddy. The girl taps her chin thoughtfully, noting that her personal kingdom is currently in need of a loyal maid. A devious glint enters the child's eyes as she offers Jian Yi a spot in her top secret, Operation Runaway. Jian Yi's eyes narrow as she realizes the gravity of the child's request, her mind shifting back in mission mode. Crouching down to meet the girl's eye level, she asks if anyone else in the massive estate knows about this escape plan. The child gives a bright, innocent smile, confirming that her mother is the only other person in on the secret. A wave of empathy washes over Jian Xi, her expression softening as she sees the vulnerability behind the girl's bravado. She pulls the child into a sudden, protective hug, promising that if the girl is truly ready to leave this place, she will find a way to get her out. Outside, the imposing architecture of the estate stands as a silent witness to the new alliance forming within its walls. Resuming her duties, Jian Xi carefully moves through the halls, haunted by the feeling that Lin Feng has already seen through her cover. Her hand trembles slightly as she reaches out to steady a piece of decor, her focus compromised by the weight of her new promise. She internally debates the morality of involving a child in her mission, wondering if there is any other way to proceed. Jian Xi knows that a child's escape plan is a high-stakes gamble that is destined for failure without expert intervention. Suddenly, a stern supervisor appears out of nowhere, her shadow looming over Jian Xi with a sharp reprimand. The sudden startle causes Jian Xi to lose her footing, sending her stumbling into the expensive display. The heavy, ornate vase tips over and shatters against the floor, leaving Jian Xi standing over a mess of broken ceramic and ruined composure. The ornate vase lies shattered across the floor, a silent testament to Jian Yi's clumsy mistake. She quickly bows her head, offering to pay for the damage regardless of the steep cost. Nearby maids whisper in fear, certain that this blunder will cost her more than just her job. Unexpectedly, the supervisor rushes forward and takes her hands, checking frantically for any injuries. Ignoring the priceless artifact, the supervisor scoffs that the vase was an eyesore, and she is glad it's gone. Jian Xi narrows her eyes, wondering why this strict woman is suddenly acting so suspiciously kind. Seizing the bizarre moment of goodwill, she asks for a leave of absence to clear her head. The supervisor doesn't even hesitate, granting the request with a cheerful and unnerving smile. Out in the city, the tall glass towers of the shopping district gleam under the afternoon sun. Jian Xi blends into the crowd in her civilian clothes, though her mind remains sharp and alert. Behind her, two professional tails track her every move, keeping a watchful eye on their target. She steps into a boutique, using the racks of clothing to break their line of sight. Her expression hardens as she prepares to execute a quick and clean disappearance. The shop assistant intercepts the two men, buying Jian Xi the precious second she needs to slip away. The agents scan the store frantically, realizing too late that they've completely lost her trail. A city bus pulls up to the curb, offering the perfect getaway vehicle for her escape. Now sporting long, golden hair as a disguise, Jian Xi boards the bus with a completely new identity. The doors hiss shut and the bus speeds away, leaving her pursuers in the dust. A man in dark glasses lowers his book, quietly asking if the infiltration was a success. She admits the mission is moving forward, though she fears her cover might be too thin. He reassures her that the subtle disguise was necessary to bypass the initial security layer. Focused on the end goal, she demands to know what her next objective entails. He adjusts his grip on his book, his voice dropping to a low, serious tone. The order is simple but dangerous. She must stay close to the target at all costs. He reminds her that a spy's first duty is to follow orders without asking questions. The bus rattles through the streets as the weight of her dual life settles in. They sit in silence among the commuters, two shadows hiding in plain sight. He tells her to cherish this family reunion, hinting at a darker future ahead. Jian Xi looks away, the mention of family striking a painful chord deep within her. She eventually steps off the bus, disappearing into the sea of anonymous faces. Standing alone at the stop, she watches the bus pull away, bracing herself for what comes next. She reminds herself that a spy must suppress all emotions to survive this dangerous game. As she walks, her attention is suddenly seized by a massive digital billboard overhead. The news report flashes the logo of the Lin Corporation, announcing their latest political move. Lin Feng appears on screen, smiling charismatically for the cameras and his supporters. He boldly proclaims his innocence regarding the tragic deaths of Professor Su and his wife. Jian Yi's hand curls into a tight, trembling fist at the sound of his blatant lies. She scoffs at the screen, her eyes burning with a cold, vengeful fire. Lin Feng stands before a swarm of reporters, brazenly playing the victim by claiming he's used to people slandering his name. Nearby citizens fall for the act, casually dismissing his crimes as mere controversies that come with being successful. Walking past the giant broadcast, Jian Xi hangs her head in silence, disgusted that the public is so easily swayed by a murderer's lies. However, she isn't as alone as she thinks, as two mysterious figures in suits track her every move from the shadows. One of the watchers reports into his phone, mocking Jian Xi for underestimating the massive reach of the DUS organization. After hanging up, he reveals his true allegiance by donning a clown mask, noting that his own faction's influence is far beyond what even DUS can imagine. As night falls over the city, the neon lights of the bar district flicker to life, hiding the mounting tension in the air. Jian Xi seeks refuge in a quiet corner of a lounge, staring blankly into her glass as the weight of her mission settles in. Her jaw tightens as she realizes the bitter truth. The public has already forgiven the killers, while the victims' families are still trapped in darkness. Frustration boils over, and she slams her glass down, unable to comprehend how the world can be this fundamentally unfair. Her moment of reflection is rudely interrupted when a group of rowdy patrons decides to target the solitary woman. A sleazy man leans in close, offering his unwanted company, with a predatory smirk on his face. Jian Xi doesn't even look at him, coldly warning the stranger to back off before things get ugly. Ignoring the threat, the man places a hand on her shoulder and mockingly offers to let her pour her heart out to him. She looks him dead in the eye with chilling intensity, disgusted by a man who thinks he can take advantage of a woman he perceives as vulnerable. As the rest of the gang closes in, a dangerous smile plays on Jian Yi's lips. She's in a terrible mood, and these thugs just gave her a perfect excuse to vent. A series of heavy thuds and crashes echo through the alleyway as she makes quick work of the overconfident attackers. Moments later, she steps out into the night air and pulls out her phone to report the incident to the local authorities. Behind her, the pile of unconscious thugs is littered with stolen goods she recovered, serving as undeniable proof of their crimes. To her disbelief, the officer on the other end of the line begins lecturing her on overstepping her authority instead of thanking her. Jian Yi's eyes widen in sheer annoyance as she barks back at incompetent official, unable to believe the lack of cooperation. She fumes with rage, realizing that even the systems meant to protect people are just as frustrating as the criminals themselves. Suddenly, a golden pocket watch dangles from above, swaying back and forth like a ticking countdown. Sensing a presence, Jian Xi wheels around with her guard up, searching for the source of the subtle sound. Perched high atop a nearby wall, a shadowy figure watches her with a calm, analytical gaze. The mysterious man in the clown mask checks his watch, informing her with chilling politeness that they only have 5 minutes left. The city skyline looms dark and heavy, hiding dangerous secrets within its illuminated towers. The clown agent reveals a chilling truth. Jian Yi has been under Dios's thumb since she first stepped foot in country years ago. Jian Yi stares in disbelief, struggling to comprehend how one organization could blind an entire nation's police force. With a mocking grin, the masked man confirms that Dios's reach in this territory is absolute. The weight of this information begins to sink in as Jian Yi tries to connect the dots of this conspiracy. He explains that Dios agents even infiltrated the local precinct to eliminate Bai Hui and assist Lin Feng's rise to power. Jian Yi recalls the directives given to Tony, realizing his role might be deeper than it seems. She begins to question if Tony is actually another undercover operative embedded in the mission. However, she quickly grows wary, suspecting the Clown Alliance is merely trying to manipulate her, and sow internal distrust. The mysterious man checks his pocket watch, noting that the 5-minute window has officially closed. Striking a dramatic pose, he offers his future services and claims to be an ally in the shadows. Jian Yi watches him closely, unsure if she can trust a single word from this strange visitor. In an instant, a thick cloud of smoke erupts as the masked figure vanishes into the night. She stands alone on the rooftop, replaying his final cryptic instructions in her mind. Her thoughts drift to Stella, wondering if she too belongs to this elusive clone alliance. Suddenly, a frantic man in formal wear rushes onto the scene, nearly losing his balance in his haste. He approaches Jian Yi with visible concern, asking if she encountered any trouble during her absence. His eyes widen in horror as he looks down at the unconscious bodies littering the pavement. The assistant panics, realizing the severe professional consequences he'll face if his master learns of this mess. Desperate to save his career, he suggests making the evidence disappear before the sun comes up. Jian Yi holds him back, insisting that the thugs have learned their lesson and should be handled by the proper authorities. She challenges him with a cold stare, suggesting they bypass the local police and go straight to Dios instead. Suspicion flares as she demands to know exactly how he managed to track her down so quickly. Looking incredibly guilty, the assistant admits that her employee ID is equipped with a high-tech GPS tracker. Jian Yi bristles at the thought of being monitored so closely for what was supposed to be a simple job. Fed up with the constant surveillance, she decides that some rules were meant to be broken. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the quiet, industrial rooftop of the local police station. Lin Feng stands at the edge, casually smoking a cigarette while discussing his recent successes over the phone. From the shadows, Tony arrives to observe his target's movements with a professional eye. He performs a quick, technical check of his sidearm to ensure everything is ready for the next phase of the mission. Tony's expression remains cold and calculated as he maintains his silent vigil. He pushes through the rooftop door, moving with the practiced silence of a seasoned operative. Lin Feng glances back with a smirk, mentioning that his workload is far from finished tonight. Tony remains stoic, fully committed to his undercover role as the two prepare for a long night of overtime. Tony wraps up his call, stating he needs to get back to the mission at hand. He tells his contact not to wait up, prepared for a long night of investigative work. Suddenly, he's interrupted by a mocking greeting from the very man he's been watching. Tony reveals he's been tracking a deep cover infiltration that dates back years. He drops the bombshell. He's found massive, unexplained deposits in the officer's bank account that don't match a police salary. With an icy stare, Tony demands to know exactly who is funding this betrayal. The corrupt officer doesn't flinch, meeting Tony's gaze with a chilling, knowing smile. He scoffs at the evidence, mocking Tony for only finding a small financial clue after 4 years of digging. He dismissively pats Tony's shoulder, treating the serious accusation like a joke. He issues a dark warning, claiming that the power of Country Y is something Tony can never defeat. Fed up with the games, Tony draws his sidearm and aims it directly at the traitor. He holds his ground, demanding the name of the shadow figure pulling the strings. The traitor dares him to fire, betting that the detective doesn't have the stomach to actually pull the trigger. He pushes further, asking why Tony hasn't reported him yet if his evidence is so solid. The atmosphere on the rooftop grows suffocating as the two men stand at a deadly crossroads. The traitor admits he once shared Tony's ideals, but the cost of being a good cop was simply too high. The standoff is shattered as a squad of enforcers rushes onto the scene to protect their asset. They move with clinical precision, quickly surrounding the lone detective. Tony realizes he's been lured into a lethal trap with no easy way out. He tightens his grip on the weapon, prepared for the fight of his life. The corrupt officer levels his own gun at Tony, claiming resistance against Deus is futile. The goons lunge forward, grabbing Tony and forcing him toward the edge. Thinking fast, Tony uses the momentum to break free and leap into the abyss. A single shot echoes through the night as blood sprays across the rooftop railing. Tony's silhouette plummets toward the street below, disappearing into the shadows of the city. The traitor shields his eyes, perhaps regretting that it had to end this way. The men scan the darkness, realizing their target is no longer in sight. The order is given to hunt him down, as they refuse to believe he could survive such a drop. Elsewhere, Ji maintains her professional focus as she interrogates a lead with physical force. She demands the truth with a cold, unwavering intensity, leaving no room for lies. 4 years ago, the missing young master made a sudden and mysterious return to the manor. The butler recalls how he became cold and silent, only speaking to command her to care for the infant. A quiet look at the sleeping child reveals the weight of the secret he brought home with him. He never once mentioned the child's mother, leaving his past shrouded in a dark veil. The butler watched him grow up and felt a deep sense of pity for the man he had become. She notes that ever since Jian Xi appeared, the young master finally stopped being so introverted. Jian Xi listens with a stoic expression, refusing to be swayed by the emotional history. Suddenly, she catches the butler's wrist in a firm grip, surprising the older woman. With a sharp motion, Jian Xi drops her identification card onto the stone path. The work ID lies exposed on the ground, revealing more than just her name. Jian Xi holds up a tiny tracking device she discovered hidden within the card. The butler calmly explains that Lin Feng had absolutely no knowledge of this surveillance. This revelation catches Jian Xi completely off guard as she tries to process the lie. She stares in silence while the butler begins to adjust her formal gloves. The butler admits she once hoped Jian Xi would be the one to finally open Lin Feng's heart. However, she pulls out a pen and a checklist, ready to deliver a harsh evaluation. She critiques Jian Yi's diligent persona, calling out her suspicious behavior at luxury shops. The butler even insults her appearance, mocking her hair as if it were a low-quality wig. Jian Yi snaps back in a fit of rage, insisting that her hair is perfectly real. The butler brings up the scene of defeated thugs, doubting Jian Yi's claim of just walking past. She mocks Jian Yi's lack of intelligence for wandering into such a dangerous district at night. With a final look at her notes, the butler declares that Jian Yi is unqualified to stand by the young master. Fuming with anger, Jian Yi can barely contain her frustration at the sudden judgment. The two women stand in a tense standoff under the dim streetlights. Jian Yi realizes that if Lin Feng has the police on his side, her solo mission against Deus is in jeopardy. Meanwhile, at the manor, a door is pushed open to reveal Lin Feng's private office. A fresh cup of coffee is placed on the desk to keep the young master alert. Lin Feng looks exhausted, his gaze fixed on the work in front of him. A maid moves to clear the tray, performing her duties in the quiet room. In a moment of weary isolation, Lin Feng reaches out and takes her hand. The maid's face flushes a bright red, completely overwhelmed by the unexpected contact. Realizing something is wrong, Lin Feng's expression immediately sours with irritation. He demands to know who she is and why a stranger is in his office. His eyes flash with anger as he asks who gave the regular maid permission to take leave. Back on the street, the butler informs Jian Yi that her temporary contract is officially being terminated. Suddenly, the butler's phone rings, displaying an urgent call from the young master himself. The head butler answers the call with practiced poise. Lin Feng's voice drips with icy urgency as he demands to know her location. Stunned by the sudden intensity, the butler can only muster a confused response. An explosion of rage erupts from the phone as Lin Feng screams about her unauthorized departure. Wiping away cold sweat, the butler laments the chaotic intensity of modern romance. Jian Yi stands firm outside, her expression unreadable and defiant. Inside the manor, the senior butler nearly fumbles his phone from the shock. Lin Feng stands with his back turned, radiating pure, visible frustration. The senior butler tentatively asks if the termination has already occurred. Lin Feng remains silent, his sharp gaze fixed on the distance. Relief washes over the senior butler when he realizes the maid hasn't officially left yet. The young master's silence is heavy with unspoken demands. The butler softly suggests retrieving her immediately to restore order. He wipes his brow, planning planning a subtle return in a luxury vehicle to maintain appearances. A car tears through the dark city streets at high speed. The female butler drives with focused determination while Jian Xi sits beside her. She worries if her performance will be enough to deceive those at the manor. Jian Xi stares out the window, lost in her own silent thoughts. She questions the necessity of her undercover role while mourning her past. The grandeur of the manor stands tall against the night sky. The luxury car pulls up to the illuminated courtyard fountain. The senior butler rushes out, faking concern over her return. He attempts to regain his authoritative stance with a stern cuff. A heavy footfall interrupts his performance, signaling a new presence. The butler's eyes widen as he senses someone powerful approaching. The old master looms over him, demanding an explanation for the talk of compensation. Color drains from the butler's face as he realizes the patriarch has arrived unannounced. He quickly bows, stammering out a frantic greeting to the master of the house. The old master strides forward, inquiring about Yu Liang's whereabouts. He stops mid-stride, sensing something is amiss in the courtyard. He turns back with a piercing gaze, questioning who the butler was truly expecting. Another car screeches to a halt, drawing everyone's attention. The female butler waves from the driver's seat, announcing she has successfully brought the maid back. The old master's eyes narrow as he demands to know exactly who was just brought back to the manor. Seated in the dim light of the car, Jian Xi maintains a cold, professional exterior as the pressure of the infiltration mounts. The patriarch dismisses the passenger as someone unimportant, signaling he has no intention of wasting his time on a mere employee. Internally, the butler is losing his mind, terrified that the old master's curiosity will blow Jian Yi's cover sky high. The old master presses Uncle Li for the truth, his commanding presence looming over the panicked servant. Inside the vehicle, Jian Yi remains focused on the mission, her gaze sharp and calculating. She recalls the old master's ruthless reputation, remembering how easily he handles public scandals and press inquiries. It's time to face the music, and Jian Yi steels herself for the inevitable confrontation with the head of the household. A hand reaches out, gripping the door handle as the moment of truth finally arrives. Jian Yi watches through the glass, her reflection masking the tension of the high-stakes situation. The old master steps toward the driveway, his stern face momentarily softening as a familiar voice calls out to him. Little Yu Liang comes racing toward him, providing a rare burst of innocence in this nest of vipers. He catches her in his arms, questioning why the young miss is still awake so late into the night. The child clings to him, begging her grandfather to stay and read her the stories she loves. The patriarch holds the girl tight, his mind already turning toward a stern lecture for his son regarding her upbringing. He turns his gaze back to Uncle Li, demanding to know where the newly hired caretaker has disappeared to. Hidden in the shadows of the back seat, Jiai waits for the perfect opening to make her entrance. She prepares to step out, but the door is suddenly pulled open by an unexpected hand. The car door slams shut with a heavy thud, signaling that a new player has entered the field. Jianni's heart stops as she stares at a woman who looks like a mirror image of herself. The shock is visible on her face as she tries to process the appearance of this mysterious double. The woman shows off a distinctive ring, a symbol of a status Jian he doesn't yet fully understand. Confused and cornered, Jian Yai asks the stranger why she is bothering to help her. The woman offers a cryptic smile, claiming to be her, before telling Jian Yi to watch the upcoming performance closely. With a graceful wave, the glamorous newcomer announces her presence to the stunned crowd outside. The old master stands frozen, watching as this elegant figure approaches the group with total confidence. The patriarch's eyes flash with suspicion as he keeps a protective arm around the child. The mystery woman extends her arms, calling out to Yu Liang with a warmth that feels eerily practiced. To everyone's shock, the little girl leaps toward her, shouting "Mommy" at the top of her lungs. Watching from inside the car, Jian Yi is left speechless by the sheer audacity of the woman's performance. A flicker of realization crosses her mind as she observes the complex family dynamics unfolding in the driveway. Uncle Li tries to play it off as a childish mistake, claiming the girl calls every beautiful woman her mother to save face. The old master isn't buying the act, turning the child away and refusing to acknowledge the woman's claim. He delivers a crushing blow, calling her a mere replacement, and insulting her very presence in the manor. He turns his back on the scene, his jaw set in a line of pure, aristocratic disdain for the situation. Suddenly, Lin Feng's voice cuts through the tension like a blade, demanding that everyone stop the madness at once. Lin Feng stands his ground as the patriarch keeps a firm hold on the child. He warns his father that he's already sacrificed his marriage and won't be pushed further. The mysterious woman watches the confrontation with a piercing, analytical gaze. The patriarch offers no response, his cold expression remaining fixed. He maintains a tight, controlling grip on Yu Liang's hand. The young girl looks up, her eyes filled with confusion and fear. The patriarch breaks the silence by ordering Uncle Li to take the child away. Uncle Li steps in to guide the hesitant girl toward the mansion. Yu Liang casts one final, lingering look back at the chaos. Lin Feng demands to know why his father continues to tear the family apart. Uncle Li carries out the order with a visible sense of regret. The girl's face hardens as she is forced to leave the scene. Lin Feng looks away, burdened by the weight of his father's demands. The imposter hides her expression as she prepares for her next move. The two stand in a heavy, professional silence under the moonlight. The patriarch coldly dismisses the past, refusing to acknowledge his mistakes. Lin Feng laments his arrival while his father warns him of the clown alliance. The patriarch boards his car, ending the tense meeting abruptly. The vehicle peels away, leaving a trail of dust in the night. Lin Feng stands alone, Contemplating the crumbling state of his household, he regains his composure. Though the exhaustion is clear on his face, he finds the interior of his own car empty and silent. He immediately calls his staff to check on his wife's condition. A guard confirms that the mistress is back in her room under watch. She sits motionless on the bed, trapped in a silent, hollow state. The guard asks if the young master intends to see her personally. He refuses, instead ordering a constant guard to ensure her safety. He stares at the phone, paralyzed by the complexity of their relationship. He knows his presence would only bring her more pain right now. Back in her quarters, the imposter meticulously checks her appearance. She wears a dark, triumphant smile, certain her disguise is flawless.